Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 116 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it is me, Karak, with ACG. How you going?
And it's me alone. Okay, we're done.
I've just stuffed up the flow at the start of this podcast.
Yeah, you really did. Now
No,
you confused our guest.
It's cool. We planned around it and we failed instantly. Go.
All right.
Go for it,
My
Nate.
name's Nate. I have another YouTube channel of my own. It's youtube.com/TheEpicNate315. Made the channel when I was in middle school, so that's why it's got a childish sounding name. In my videos, you can just really find me talking about Bethesda stuff and killing Stormcloaks in the background.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Yeah, I'll have his channel link down below if you guys want to check him out. I've been watching him for a good amount of time now. You're part of the Discord, the Patreon stuff, so we talk a absurd amount. If you guys ever want to become a part of the podcast, get early access and all that stuff, then feel free to support the Patreon. But we have a lot of, I was looking at the news list, and we have a lot of interesting, different things to talk about today. We're going to throw it back for the beginning and talk about Atari and how they teased at E3, and I didn't even know about this, new console called the AtariBox. And now apparently in this coming week, there's going to be information about this AtariBox. Right now, based off comments from Atari, they wanted to get back into the hardware business. I think they said around 2015 that they weren't going to try to directly compete with Microsoft and Sony, as in Atari was going to make their own console with their own games and try to get their own exclusives, that type of thing. So what this is sounding like more and more is a SNES Classic and NES Classic. Do we need another box, Karak? What's your hype level right now, bro?
Zero. And that was one of my favorite systems. That was Atari, that's what I grew up on. So yeah, zero. I mean, until we see something that legitimately causes me to, want to go and purchase it and stuff like that. I mean, it's sort of out of the blue, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly didn't expect Atari to be talking about something like this. So yeah. I think everybody's just jumping on that.
I didn't even know they were still a company anymore.
Yeah, it's like Enron. You're like, wait, what? They still exist? So yeah, I'm not interested at all.
When I was researching this story a little bit, I saw that a lot of their games are available on iOS, Google Play. Yeah. So I'm like, why are people gonna buy a box for all your old games that, let's say it is that are gonna be already available to people in probably better quality too?
It's the box. The box,
yeah,
man.
I was about to say, it's literally another thing to put on the shelf.
Yeah, it's a collectible.
You know what?
What's their target demo with that? Because it seems like it's not really going to appeal to anyone with nostalgia, or it's only going to appeal to people that are nostalgic about it. Because even with the SNES Mini and those, at least they had good big games behind them, like Donkey Kong or some of the original Nintendo classics and Zelda. But this one doesn't I can't remember any Atari games.
I never even played the Atari. I'm gonna be honest. Well, actually, no. I've played the Atari. I remember my dad brought home a dusty old Atari, and I had to fix it up myself. And I tried it after I finally got it working. I was like, I like my PS2 better. I'm gonna go back to that, and that was the end of that. I really wasn't all about the Atari. Does anyone here have any Atari memories? Any Atari hype to share?
Not at all. It's interesting though, because whenever I talk about retro gaming, the thing I think back to is, for me, is the SNES and N64. But it's weird when you if I'm streaming or if I'm talking to a bunch of people and they're like, "No, well, I grew up with the GameCube, but I grew up with this console." Right. And you're like, remember, it might be retro for some other people. It doesn't have to be retro for you. Although, even saying that, I'm on Karak's side here. I mean, I haven't touched my NES Classic since the moment I bought it, essentially, and I thought I was going to be playing it heaps.
You hid that from us.
I know. I just haven't really played it.
Here's the thing
for you was up here. Now it's
Oh no, it was never that high. Christ. So here's the thing. He hides his face. No, I'm just joking.
He bought one in the first place.
Here's another issue, and he hit it off perfectly. The fact that there was a gap on the crash itself prior to the NES. So for a lot of people, there were no games, and what happened was many people moved to PC at that point. And so in the point where the Atari was there were also the beginning of the PC market. This is pre-Apple IIe, that kind of stuff. But they were starting, people were starting to look at these other avenues to get to games. And then NES was so big that it's hard sometimes. It's almost like a mental block when something is so big in your memory to go prior to it. You hear that with a lot of people where they're like, I can't remember the day before this happened. That kind of stuff does happen. And I think for a lot of gamers. Those games are gone. And they also, remember this, those games interface was one button, one big red button. That was it.
True.
So Pitfall, one of my favorite games of all time, one red button. Dragonfire, one red button. Combat, one red button. There's a difference, I think, for retro to go too far back. And you're now looking at a game which is quite simply like a runner on the Android, where your character's always running. You just hit one button to jump things.
Yeah.
Or Crash Bandicoot remake. So it's and that's a shot at Crash Bandicoot. I liked it, guys. But yeah, it's a little weird to see them try, because I think that there's a huge gap in the gaming market where they sort of think they're going to slide in. But how do you slide in with Pitfall? I mean, I mean, press one button. Like, dude, it's seriously, really games we thought were hard, any of us would be able to rock on an Atari, because our skills are so much beyond like what they, and there's no end games. Like Pitfall just kept playing. I mean, you just kept running and jumping over alligators. So it's a weird idea.
It really is.
Do we know their price?
No, we know not. That's, I'm assuming that's all the details we're going to be getting. You know,
it better be 99 or less. It
comes
better
with
be
Happy Meals or something.
50.
I mean, is there, what else could they do? You can't even say, oh, are they going to up-res it? It was just pixels. So like what, like what could they do here? I mean, is this box going to support other games? But then their old comments suggest that's not the case. Have they had a change in philosophy as a company? It seems strange. Maybe they just see an opportunity to make a quick buck. Maybe they're making more money than we assume. I know they've, I was doing some research, like I said, and I was kind of shocked. They've published a good amount of games. So they're still out and about. So maybe this is just a way to, even though it's a very niche market, make some money. Yeah. I don't know.
That's all it is.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like, at least at face value, it seems like a very, very marginal amount of money that can be made here. It's different from like the NES or the SNES Classic, where we got these like 60-hour games on there that you know, you can play over and over again. Where, like Karak was saying, this is just, you know, one red button and you're jumping some alligators or something along those lines.
I'm gonna Twitch that shit. I'm gonna be like, dude, we're gonna Twitch this. It's gonna be a 24-hour fucking live stream of me hitting one red button for 24 hours.
I mean, the one good thing about, I at least say, about these classic boxes possibly coming around is at least we're getting these current gamers. Like, for me, one of the most jarring things is hearing, like, my first console, I have a friend, he's like, my first console was a Wii. I'm like, what? You know, it's crazy. And so it's like, to see these SNES Classics, these NES Classics, these old games start coming back and being discussed again is where maybe people can reconnect to their roots of what really started gaming, as you know, as it grew as a medium. So that's the only positive I can take from this. I mean, if you just want a lesson in the old school of gaming, then yeah, you can check out the AtariBox, I guess.
Yeah, but it's more of a collectible than anything else, really. Because look, if you really wanted to play all these games, and obviously I'm not recommending it, but there are ways without having to buy this box, let alone anything else directly from the publisher, right? But the thing is, people want to buy these things because they look cool. It allows them to play these older games, you know, and they can just say, you know what, I have a NES Classic because not many people have it. I have an SNES Classic, you know, because not many people have it. And the same is going to go for the Atari box, especially if they're a limited run, right? I mean, anything that's rare is super fun to get your hands on if it's just for that exclusive factor. So I still understand why people would want it.
Do you guys remember back in the day when something was rare because there were few of them, and not they were rare because they were made rare on purpose by the company trying to make them rare?
Yeah. They're not
like,
made
isn't
rare
that
on
really
purpose.
weird?
Come on.
It's just so weird. It's like, let's purposely, you know, like
rare.
sell to this
create
odd
false hype.
demographic. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's sad. But hey, you know what? It'll be awesome if it turns out cool. Like, just because we don't know anything, we don't have much to go on. But if it turns out that, like, for example, if they did do Pitfall, but they had programmers, you know, update it and do some stuff, but it was still the
Kinda
basic,
like customizable, probably cosmetically.
and it was still the basic Pitfall, but they adjusted some things. I mean, I might play something like that. It's just all going to depend. What was the one, the Ouya? Is that the other?
Oh my!
I do remember.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm worried about. That is legitimately what, when you mention Atari, I think of Ouya instantly. That the weird demographic, everybody's questioning why they're doing it, and then it fails.
God,
utterly.
I forgot about that. What the
I
fuck
never
was
forget
that?
shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
What
It was like
I
a
remember
three
watching,
fucking
like-
humped camel. It just made no sense. What?
There was a bunch of like Call of Duty YouTubers I used to follow around that time, and they were all talking about how it was going to be the next big thing, and
Because they were
Like-
getting sponsored.
I was
What?
gonna say, bro,
Yeah.
it had to be cash.
they
in
would
the
never
pocket.
take money.
Oh, I have something. I have
Years.
something I want to add to the news too, Maddie.
Mhm.
Just write down the name Tansit.
Handset.
Yeah.
Pull out your little black book, Matty.
Yeah.
And just write it.
And all you got to do is mention it.
Alright,
I don't know if I spelled that right, but all right, go for
I'm
it.
gonna try and Google what Karak is referring to. Handset.
Oh, I'll tell you when we come to it.
Well, I'll tell you.
You want to go for it now?
Yeah. So I got to tell you, it's sponsored videos, non-sponsored videos. We've talked about this. You can do whatever you want as a YouTuber or as a Twitch streamer. I think that people have sponsored videos. It's fine. It's just not for me.
Mhm.
But I got to tell you right now, I had noticed a couple, maybe 5 or 6 different videos from different YouTubers that were not doing sponsored stuff. Some people I had actually joined up with when I first started. And it was oddly timed. Many of them said, we've decided due to reasons we're doing sponsored videos. We may do sponsored videos. And there were various reasons given, but I didn't really put 2 and 2 together until I started looking, and I found that within 1 week, 6 of them on different days all did this kind of video. And then I got an email. No shit. This email says, are you interested in a sponsored video? I said, no, I don't do sponsored videos. And they said, well, let me tell you the amount first before you say no. And I said, no, it doesn't matter what the amount is because I'll never recover from that. Like, it's just, I don't like the idea of doing it.
Yeah.
Let's just say if there was a 10 and a K, that would be the amount.
Fuck.
And I
Took us some real
sent,
money there.
I sent out a Twitter freaking out about it, saying that there were some new things coming into YouTube, some new big pockets. If you guys don't know, Tencent's the largest company in the world when it comes to internet products and video games. They're a Chinese-based company.
Oh, 10 cent, you mean?
Tencent. Sorry, I did pronounce that wrong.
I get you now. Yeah.
Subsidiaries like Riot Games, all these
That's
people.
right,
And,
yeah.
and again, I know people at Riot Games, the Epic Games, they have some, I have no problem with them either. But I was absolutely floored by the amount and the amounts that I've been hearing coming from not only them, but 3 other competitive companies. Maybe they heard, I don't know. But the amount is insane. It's legitimately many months for a single video. And that's like stage 1 of what appears to be like 5 or 6 step program to sort of inject into games in the United States and in the EU more. And man, I was blown away when I saw that. I was just like, what? Like, that must be a mistake. But it wasn't.
Yeah, I've seen some absurd amounts personally. I'm on the same page as you. I don't take sponsored video offers because I've
never seen that much. Have you? For one video, dude?
The most I've seen is 5.
I've
seen offered to me, and it was for like some random game.
Chinese company.
No, I think it was 505 games. I want to say.
Weird.
Yeah,
I didn't even think they
I
did
was
that.
just like, no, but like, it never ceases to amaze me how much money these companies can really throw out. Because I think they balance it out. They got to see how much it costs to like advertise on TV and stuff compared to flying
like
a YouTuber out to an event.
What's the rate of return?
Having them cover it. There's got to be, a bigger return value in the metrics to them. So that's probably why we'll see these absurd amounts of money. But to them, we're saving if this turns out well.
They are, and I got to say that I think for a lot of people, there is a breaking point to where the person just looks at the amount and for whatever reason, they're into what they're doing. They're in it for the money. People are, which is fine because you have to make a living.
Yeah.
And they've decided to switch. It sort of bothered me because I hadn't put the 2 together because I saw these videos popping up in my streams from, like I said, a couple people that I had actually, sort of, I don't know what the term would be, aligned. I liked their attitude, and then started seeing them. And One was a Japanese YouTuber, a close friend of mine, I would say. And I did email, and I was like, "Did you get an email from these guys?" Didn't get a response back because I think it's like 6 a.m. for them right now. But it's sort of sad. Could they all be timed just coincidentally? Yes, but regardless, removing that, you still have a huge amount of deep pockets entering the Twitch/YouTube arena, and I think it's going to get crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Won't surprise me.
In their defense, I've personally had, in the terms of news, not when it comes to the monetary sponsorship stuff, I've had horribly timed videos, or not horribly, but like just weird timing videos too. I remember
For sure.
when I made a video about a weird ass Bethesda game idea, I was like, yo, imagine they like cross over all their different games and stuff, and then all of a sudden this Quake Champions trailer comes out the next day, and they're like, BJ Blazkowicz is in this game, and I'm like, and people
Everyone's
were like,
Matty's getting sponsored.
yeah, everyone was like, Matty, you knew. I'm like, I did not have a fucking clue.
Gotcha. I just find it strange that a large group that all happen to belong to a certain thing all posted videos within 2 weeks that were along the same lines.
It's obviously not a coincidence.
I don't think so, but
yeah, like even
each to
saying
their
that,
own. Each to their own.
No, exactly. And I was going to say, I don't think Karak is saying this. And I know that there are people out there that will say, well, don't take sponsored videos. But fuck, YouTube, man, is becoming so hard lately if you were doing this full time.
Exactly.
I'd be a liar if I said that I wouldn't consider it. I'd be a fucking liar. So.
Yeah, no,
$10,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, I was gonna
It
say,
is a lot of money.
You definitely got to raise an eyebrow and think,
It's like, how would you like to improve your life? Like,
exactly. And
how would you like to be stress-free for a couple of months?
And can you just do one and move on? And I personally think, like I said, that's why I started this entire thing. I said it's totally fine if people want to do that. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get that people need that and want to do it and all those kind of things. Totally legitimate. What does slightly worry me though is that the amounts are so they're just the stratosphere now, and it's for smaller channels. And like Matty said, they're probably saving money anyway, right? They're not going with a major whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, every goddamn contract I get, especially about streaming, says I can't say anything negative about the games. That kind of stuff. There's a difference. If somebody says, "Here's $10,000, create an honest review," that's different.
Yeah.
When somebody has a streamer paragraph of fucking data that says you have to say that all the negative experiences in this game are most likely due to bugs that will be patched, but that's bullshit. That makes no fucking sense. Arc hasn't been patched, bitches, and that's coming up as retail. So
and like that's where transparency is key.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's where
I think this is mostly the case in any major territory. I know it's the case in Australia. It's definitely the case in the US with the FTC.
You have
but
to say it, yeah.
You fucking disclose that shit in the description at the start of the video. Have a watermark. Like if it's about covering your ass.
If you're like Karak or myself, or you make a lot of review content on your channel, you can't cross them over and have
it's a different
companies paying you money. You can't. It's a horrible idea, because it's like, then how valid is my opinion? How much can you trust it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't want to skew negative. I was just so shocked by the amount. We talked about it even in my podcast, where I was just like, it went so. It was multiple companies, 3 in the same day, that it was just like, what the fuck is happening? I mean, it was just really sort of sticker shock, if that makes sense, like a reverse sticker shock
to their target demographic. Like, they don't have to worry about anything about, like, on TV. Like, oh, is there going to be a 14-year-old boy watching the news at 6 a.m.? Like, no, they're guaranteed to hit exactly what they want.
That's a good point.
Exactly.
You know what's even greater? The fact that one troll of mine did contact me a couple weeks ago and said, FYI, I faked an email from a company and I pretended to ask you to do sponsored content and you refused, and I totally appreciate it. I was like, Dick, you're not going to catch me.
That's literally
like
why I don't respond to them. I literally I delete them like that.
It can be a troll.
Yeah,
it can be a troll. Is that not crazy?
Yeah, I've heard out offers. Like, I'll usually, if anything, I'll respond depending on the company and just seeing like what they're going to offer for discussions like these. I'm like, how's the market now? Because I haven't heard one offer out since that 505 Games one, where I was like, let's see, I've heard of them before, I've played their games before, what are they offering for like a standard YouTuber? And so, yeah, I haven't heard one out since then. And some of them are so pushy. One of them was like, they emailed me on a Thursday and they're like, we need a response by Saturday. I'm like, all right. Oh, no, we need a response and a video out by Saturday. I'm sorry.
Like,
I'm
you're working to my time, mate, not the other way around.
Whoa. Yeah, he's like, they're probably going to script the whole video for me or something. I was like, no. But I mean, I'm not hating on YouTubers who do it. No one here is, because there are plenty of creators who literally build their platform and then they make their earning or their living off of just straight advertisement content. They host shows and stuff, and I don't blame them for that. It's definitely a much more stable way of going about it. It absolutely is.
It's like a TV show, a comedy, a drama. There's just different things. We're all just delivering, our own unique. Our own unique element. It was sticker shock, I guess. And it had been getting higher and higher. And at that point, it was multiple things came together. And I just thought I'd mention it. It was pretty crazy. So that's as Lone said, that company, they're known already. They've got, they definitely have Riot Games, like I said, and a couple others. So it'll be interesting to see how Microsoft, Sony, publishers, EA, Activision, how they handle that. That's what's actually, to me, is the opposite. It's how other companies are going to react when they start seeing the amounts going up. Where are their sweet spots? What are they going to do? Are we going to see more trips, less trips? More events, less events? It's going to be interesting. It could be good for the industry if it turns around and bites some people too. So. Yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
Anything outside their own community, they'll pay, because then they're reaching out to different fans. Like,
true,
Bethesda's never, and I'm not saying they should or I would want them to or I'd take it, but like Bethesda, BioWare, they've never offered me a dime because they know I already have
cover Bethesda
their fans in my community. So it's like, it would be stupid for them. Yeah, it'd be stupid for them to say, here, talk more about us. We'll pay you this time.
You're right, because they're like, well, Matty's going to talk to these bunch of people that are already going to buy the damn game.
Yeah.
What's the
point?
Like,
I'm just promoting interest, if anything, and it's like that. I'm already doing that job for free for them. So it's like they'll take me out to events and pay for the flight or something like that, and then that's a whole other discussion on whether that's a sponsorship or not. I don't consider it one, but
anyway, again, didn't want to be negative. Very interesting moment in gaming right now.
Definitely. Next topic is that Metal Gear has turned 30 years old. Pretty impressive for the franchise. Do we have any Metal Gear memories we want to share?
Not from me.
Not from you. I'm shocked.
I'm sure you're not shocked that I haven't played
it. I thought you'd know my sarcasm. Nate, Metal Gear memories. Anything?
I have never played the game before in my entire life. I watched a friend do it once. I've heard they're being really original this year with a zombie shooter, so that's got to count for something.
Well, that's not what I hear. But anyways, continue.
Have you guys heard of it? It's really 1984-esque living conditions, or I guess working conditions, like being described for a lot of Konami's employees. I remember watching a video about it. It's like, oh yeah, you have to be monitored 24/7. You clock in, you clock out, which is kind of like a normal job, but more to the extreme of it. Like, they can't go out anywhere for lunch. They have to stay in the building. They're always being watched with some sort of camera. It's like really creepy. I can't imagine how how they affect morale, the effect on it would have. Like, the beatings will continue until morale improves.
Foxconn has fucking suicide nets, so they're the ones who put suicide nets up around their buildings. And they're a fab producer in China. I mean, those kind of bad situations exist in a lot of places. Rockstar, we've got multiple leaks from Rockstar that it's horrid. So
Rockstar, really?
Really?
Oh, dude, Rockstar, yeah, multiple people have gone on the record about Rockstar's terrible practices. Like, the one guy was talking about the crunch time. It was legitimately crazy. People from Red Dead left the industry because at the end of Red Dead, they were just done. They were like, I literally have nothing left. I'm done. In fact, we're going to talk about somebody who's moved from one game to the other here soon. And something I heard points to something of that happening there as well. So yeah, it's bad in a lot of companies, man. Konami's just fucked though, right? Like, Konami, I mean, they're crazy. They're burning fucking books and shit in the corner. Like, I wouldn't doubt if one of these days they just replace all their people with fucking robots. I mean, they are legitimately a crazy company when you watch how they treat people.
Yeah. So on the other side of the coin, when they were good, Any good memories from any of their games?
Matty was like, we're talking about 30
No,
years.
I'm just
Sorry.
I'm just like, how about Metal Gear?
I've heard very good things about a game called Transylvania or something, Castlevania maybe, something along those lines. I heard it was very enjoyable when they were still in their
They have
prime.
a new Netflix series out too. We keep diverting. We're bad at this.
I thought
That's
Phantom
fine.
Pain was. I had a good time. I mean, it wasn't the greatest game in the world.
I know Noah
I enjoyed
absolutely adores that game.
Yeah, I enjoyed some elements of it, and it was different. It was different. Like it didn't have the same feel of other open / hub based game worlds.
Yeah, that is definitely the best way to describe it. See, that game I dumped like 30 hours in, and the story just kind of sucked, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, right.
Because I mean, I think one of my things with Metal Gear that I know I don't even want to say I'm in the minority for, but I feel like there's this. They idolize Hideo Kojima, just like jokingly, the Bethesda does that with Todd Howard.
Right.
It's like, they're like, oh, he's such a mastermind with this story, but Metal Gear's story is so fucking convoluted and weird, especially in its release order, where like 5 takes place, I think, after Peace Walker, like 4 is the last one. It's such an all over the place story. I forgot where like 3 takes place. Like I think it's like 1, 3, 2, 4, something like that, or 1, 3, 2, Peace Walker, then 5, or I'm sorry, Ground Zero's 5, 4. Like it's so fucking weird. They just like look for their own plot holes and then try to fill them in with this ginormous story and essentially create more plot holes.
Matty, don't you feel? Does it remind you of Resident Evil in that way? Because it does to me.
Yeah.
Resident Evil and Metal
Kingdom
Gear
Hearts.
have a very odd feeling to them in that story aspect of like you're before, you're after, you're here, you're there, this guy, this mystery, this match, and it's
Like,
something
this was
about
all
those two.
happening before you even knew it. It's like,
Yeah, right,
how?
right. Yeah.
I mean, I loved Metal Gear Solid 2 though. Out of the entire series, 2 and 4,
Was that
I really
NES, SNES? What was that?
That was PlayStation 2.
Oh,
Metal Gear Solid 2. And it's because I like Raiden personally. I like him so much. I think he's a really interesting character. But I definitely am a sucker for the edgier type of character. If you need proof on that, my favorite character from Naruto is Sasuke. So, like that type of edgelord stuff. But yeah, I didn't know this, but in Metal Gear Solid 5, because we were talking about how weird this game is, if you have like the date set for your birthday in game and you like enter the mother base, I think it's called, or something like that, on your birthday, like they posted a video of it that there's like an actual birthday party and there's a whole cutscene and everything for it.
That's awesome.
That's the thing.
Awesome.
It's like there's so much personality to those games. They're very different. But I mean, for a series to turn 30 and still have new entries coming out, even if they're not from the original mind, Hideo Kojima, it's still pretty fascinating to see.
Yeah.
Especially how dynamic Metal Gear Solid 5 was. I mean, like you shoot someone in the head too many times, they start coming out with like those helmets that
and stuff,
prevent them from being headshotted and stuff. So it's pretty cool. But let's move on. Just a quick discussion on that. Let's talk about a movie. Well, we're going to change up the speed a little bit. Let's talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. All of us have seen it except Karak, but Karak likes spoilers, so I guess we're going to go all out here. Really just let him have it. You cool with that, man?
Oh, I'm definitely cool. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I absolutely love spoilers. So,
all right.
I guess, well, so people need to know that there will be spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Just a FYI.
Yeah, there definitely will be.
Check
And
the
we'll have to put a
timestamps.
time, yeah.
Yeah, like oh my god, like when people click on the podcast and they're like, "Oh man, I don't want to I only want to listen to this one section
Right.
now," and I'm like, every fucking week there is a timestamp in the description. You can go anywhere you want. You can literally listen to the last 20 minutes. It's always there. So, let's talk about Spider-Man.
I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's a good start. Whoa. Where would you rank it out of all the Spider-Man films ever to release?
Tom Holland, I'm sorry, kicks the ass of what's his face, previous Spider-Man. No, not previous Spider-Man, previous Spider-Man. Actually,
Tobey
he kicks the
Maguire.
ass of both of them.
Tobey Maguire?
Tobey Maguire. I don't like Tobey Maguire as a Spider-Man. Sorry.
He was my favorite, but yeah, Tom
It
Holland
wouldn't
steals.
surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise. What's that?
It was
supposed to
so
mean?
whiny.
What-
He
hold
was
on,
just
stop,
so
stop,
whiny and
pause.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to mean? That wouldn't surprise you.
just because you're Matty, you know.
Yeah.
You-
Okay. Yeah, that sound reasoning. Continue.
No, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think, yeah, I just enjoyed Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It was much more laid back. I liked the fact that it was in high school, so it was a bit more chill. I also liked the fact that they didn't retell the origin story again. I mean, we get it.
Yeah.
And
Uncle
they just
Ben
got
dies,
right
we
into
know.
it. The only thing that was weird to me, and this is such a small gripe, I loved every other aspect of the movie. I thought there wasn't too much Iron Man, but there was just enough to keep it interesting, or even more interesting. Now, why is it that he needs to replace his web shooters? I thought that shit just came out of his arms, his hands. I don't know why that's the case.
Well, it depends on the Spider-Man, because in some comics it's biological and in others it's mechanical. Depends.
So that's
on
what I'm saying, though. So from what I remember, the original Spider-Man, so he just shot that shit out of his...
Yeah, Tobey Maguire's was biological, Andrew Garfield's
and that's why I
biological.
was confused. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works.
So
that seems
is
to be
this one mechanical? Does it appear to be more of a mechanical?
Yeah, like he pops them out and puts them in, and he'll use
reloads them,
a taser for his web sometime and stuff. Like
it's cool. Like the suit is really cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say what was really awesome watching it is thinking of the game from Insomniac, and they already confirmed like you're gonna be able to make your own gadgets, and just seeing like the gadgets that came out of this film. Part of the excitement for the film really also came into effect when I was like, wow, imagine what he could do with his webs and all that different stuff. So I've said it time and time again. I said it when we talked about it during our E3 discussion that like the key to getting Spider-Man right is his webs. That's how you make him fun to watch and doing all this cool shit. And they did that in the movie too. And so that really excited me.
You and I really liked. I'm sorry if I'm taking this up, but
no, go for it.
They didn't just say, here's this really cool suit and he knows how to use all of it. There's taser webs and shit like that. They're like, here's a really cool suit, right? But you don't know that there's a something protocol. I can't remember what it was. Training wheels, right? Mm-hmm. And we learned together with Tom all these capabilities of this new suit, and he was learning like these crazy web shooter combinations and different abilities.
Yeah,
I like how
I thought that was
their kill mode, right?
And
they introduced that later. Right, and then we're like, all right, now the next movie, he's going to become more adept at that, and it's going to be even fucking better. They didn't just start with that, which would have been a weird progression because he's just a kid. So I love that aspect of it.
Nate, what did you think of it overall?
I really liked the movie. I got really taken away by that twist that they had. I don't know why it got to me so much, but when you find out the certain person is fucking, there's spoilers. When you find out that the dad is when you find out his like the girl he's crushing on, her dad is the main villain. Like that was kind of cool when he opens the door.
So cliche, but I did not see that comment at all.
Yeah.
No, like there was nothing to suggest that. They just said surprise, and it was there, and I liked that a lot.
And the way
the movie flowed, I think, really, because they had him out of the movie enough, and it made sense why he was out of the picture doing his own thing, because they always showed him with his gang. You're like, oh, he's probably like some single guy and stuff. You don't really put the piece together when the girl's talking about like how her parents are away all the time and shit, and then it's like prom, and so you're getting caught up in all of that homecoming stuff, and then the door opens, the music stops, and he's like, oh fuck.
It was a classic Bond moment, wasn't it? I mean, here's the evil guy being revealed, and then as she gets out of the... Like, I won't spoil too much, but just the first interaction with Spider-Man and the villain when he knows, like, he's the father.
In the car.
It was beautiful.
Excellent. So good.
I loved the villain, like how they were able to, like, you can kind of understand him. You understood why he was doing it. Like in the Avengers movie, it's like, there's the evil aliens who want to do bad things for insert random motive here. But there you can kind of understand him. Like he never tried to kill people intentionally. Like he tried to keep Parker.
It was
alive
a genuine, like hard worker that was screwed over, and you saw some redemption at the end of the movie too, when Scorpion came up to him and was like, "Yeah, no guys, I want to slit his throat," and then he says, If I saw him or if I knew him, he'd be dead already. So he didn't give up Spider-Man and his real identity. It was really cool.
That was exciting. Number one, because they used Vulture, who is kind of like a B-tier villain. Really, he's really nothing crazy special. He's always been a part of the Spider-Man universe. You've seen him in a couple of games, but this is like a really cool version of him. Seeing Scorpion, you got to wonder if they're going to start putting the seeds in for a little Sinister Six action. I'm hoping so, man. I remember playing that game on my Game Boy Color, I think it was, Sinister Six. Oh, good times. What else was there to that movie? The ending where like Aunt May sees him just standing in his room in his fucking costume. That shit.
She's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then
did you stay there for the post-credit scene? With
the second one or the first one?
The second one, like
yeah, with Captain America.
That was fucking great.
There was post-credit scenes?
Yeah,
it was nothing crazy, but it's pretty much like you wait to the end of the credits and Captain America's standing there and he's doing one of the kind of cliche videos he did on the TVs in the school, and he started talking about patience.
So funny.
Fucking funny. It was so good. I love that scene. They're in the gym and he's like, "You're a gym teacher," and he points to his right and the gym teacher's on the left side. I lost it at that stage. That was great.
That was what surprised me, is that we see these superhero movies go for a lot of funny moments, but they almost feel forced. But in Spider-Man, it was very natural. It just happened, and it was a very. It really hit what Spider-Man's all about, I think, in that movie. That's why I say it's definitely the best Spider-Man movie. I love the Tobey Maguire era. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 I thought sucked. I liked the second one, but I was shocked at how much I liked this. I went in expecting a pretty good movie based off what I've heard, but like Homecoming was excellent. So I'm really hoping they stick with this actor, they roll with this crew, and just make some spectacular Spider-Man movies, especially because he's my favorite superhero.
I hope they fucking reboot it again.
No.
It's so hilarious, man. There's so many Spider-Man. It's just crazy. I like Tobey. I actually thought he did. Each Spider-Man's different. So like Tobey's Spider-Man made more sense in some ways, but he was such a beta to what's her name, Snaggletooth. What's her name? The actress.
Kirsten Dunst.
Oh
yeah. So he was such a beta to her, and then you see the Amazing one where they were together in real life, and I sort of thought their chemistry was really good and their timing was awesome. But then there were other parts of both of the second movies that I thought were weird, like the lizard dude Croc was really bad. In the second, like he made no. Speaking of guys that make no sense, so I'm excited to see this. But the thing I think that is cool, and we might be noticing. I'll have to watch it and see if this is true. Is that Tom can do his own stunts, almost all of them, and because he's a gymnast or an ex-gymnast, and so there's a physicality now. Now Tobey Maguire was very physical as well. The physical change he made was in 6 months. So when they have him take his suit off after he gets bit, or take his shirt off, 6 months later they started filming again when he was ripped, and I thought that was very cool because it looked real, and it was a 6-month transformation. So that was cool. Andrew Garfield did nothing. He showed up, he was snide and snooty to everybody, and then suddenly he was Spider-Man. So there wasn't a physical coolness about him. So if this guy's doing his own stuff and looks the part, where you can sort of see him there, because how many times have we watched a movie and we're like, that's not the guy in the Spider-Man suit. That's like the CGI. It doesn't. It doesn't like look tangible. So I'm excited to see that the physicality of it.
What about the interrogation scene with Donald Glover, where he like uses the interrogation mode on his suit, and he's like, he says he sounds like a girl and shit.
Donald Glover's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's so confused. He's a good actor, man. That was funny.
Donald, remind me of that actor.
Donald Glover is also a rapper as well. I can't remember what his rap name is.
Okay.
For the life of me.
Fuck, what is it?
Childish Gambino.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I thought it was funny. Like he's going to become like I don't know what the correct term is for his version of Spider-Man, but isn't that the plan? He's going to become a Spider-Man 2. It's like with the black suit.
An evil Venom? Spider-Man or the.
You think he's supposed to become like a symbiote Spider-Man?
No, is it Venom? Like apparently there's a comic where there's an African American Spider-Man that wears a black Spider-Man suit.
Morales?
And apparently
Miles Morales.
Morales, that's the one. And apparently Donald Glover's going to be Miles Morales.
What?
Maddie's like, what?
Yeah, because I wouldn't have thought of that.
True,
I mean, I saw Miles Morales in the game. That's the thing. I don't know if this game's supposed to like tie in to anything, or if it's just a standalone Spider-Man game. Like, I don't know what they're going for. I mean, I don't know if it's a tie-in because they got a different voice actor for Spider-Man.
I thought they said it was the same world, and that was it.
Okay.
Like,
I don't know.
So
I think it was just some crazy fan theorist video that I watched, but apparently there was a lot of rumors that I don't know where they came from, but before Spider-Man Homecoming was announced or whatever, that Donald Glover was going to be a Spider-Man of some sort, and this was kind of a fan cameo. They brought him in for that reason.
I don't know much about Miles Morales, but the one, let's say that Donald Glover in that movie was him, then my question, wasn't he kind of like a thug or something? Didn't he have like a criminal record? I don't know what version of Miles Morales this is, but was he always that type of character?
I don't know, but here's the thing, right? I mean, I was going to say the thing I really like about Spider-Man Homecoming is that they introduce and they have characters that are traditional Spider-Man characters, but they're so different. Like they're cast really differently. I didn't think it was just like diversity for diversity's sake. Each character felt fucking different, and that was great. Like MJ, I was like, oh wait, that's actually Mary Jane / MJ. It works because we like.
Dude, they did twist so well in that movie. So subtle.
So would you say then that that's a little bit like Gotham? Because that's one reason I like Gotham, and I know a lot of people don't. But I like that it's so you're just watching it going, what? Because this is supposed to be Batman, but it's different.
Yeah, Gotham's enjoyable though.
So different, you know. So it could be the same with Miles Morales. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me the way they casted, everyone else.
Here's the best way they could do a sequel. Imagine if well, you guys will hate this, but I'd love the idea. If you did like a shattered universe and fucking Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield showed up and they had 3 Spider-Men. Because you got the two slightly different, the biological and the mechanical, and like them teasing, like, you just shoot that out of your wrist? That's gross. You could have all these hilarious one-liners about the different Spider-Man characters. Because that's actually one of the things that I've always wondered about when it comes to like the comics versus the movies. What Lone was just talking about is that there isn't a continuity. It's always restarting. Yeah. It would be very cool if they just pretended, because they already jumped ahead and said this is this character, but it would be cool if they were like, here's Andrew Garfield coming to save the day, and then here's Tobey Maguire all old and shit. Toby's like fucking beat up. He's like, okay. Yeah. But
I mean, they kind of did the same with Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, the Guardians that we
I haven't seen the first one yet. Hold on.
Whoa, what?
No. This is not spoilers. Okay, you've seen the second, but not the first.
I haven't seen the second one either.
Oh, okay. So
let's not do that then. Dude, you gotta see those, man.
I've heard good things. I get this. I have both of them on Blu-ray. I just haven't gotten around to watching them.
Dude, how have you not watched Guardians? Holy shit.
They're legit, and you're talking to somebody who not only did not know anything about them, but also when people told me, I was like, that just sounds stupid. And instead, I was watching it just legitimately going like, what the fuck? This is hilarious, but also a superhero movie. Like it's great. And it's, let's be honest, if all of us got together and were superheroes, we wouldn't fucking be Spider-Man or Superman. We'd be Guardians of the Galaxy. We'd be fucking up. One of us would be a street who couldn't talk. Like that's the kind of shit that would really happen. So you got to watch it because it solidifies superheroes for me. It really does. Okay. It puts them on a tier that is the workman superhero versus the Batman dark superhero versus the iconic superhero. And without Guardians of the Galaxy and having seen it, it's very difficult to sort of understand where everything fits. I'm telling you, it's a puzzle piece when you watch it.
And they took such not really popular superheroes that I hadn't even heard of. And they're just like
Batista.
I love Batista. I'm such a huge fan of Batista.
So am I.
Yeah, he's great.
I talked to him on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Like, dude, I was like, dude, I got to say, I don't know anything about you, WWE. I know you're in WWE, but I was like, your shit is fucking off the hook. Like your timing, and it's deadpan timing, is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And he's like, thanks, man. I totally appreciate it. It's very hard to do. And I'm like, I would assume so. And Matty, his deadpan, when he starts talking and the things he says, you would just, I was like belly laughing on some of that. It is.
I've been a huge, I follow WWE, and one of my childhood heroes growing up was Batista. He was out and out my favorite wrestler. Yeah, really and when he left,
to be a great person.
No, it was. But when he left,
throw some people through some tables, break some chairs over some heads.
It was great. He was such a badass though. But here's the thing, like when he left WWE, he turned heel, feuded with John Cena, lost. I was so disappointed. I'm like, all right, I hope this is worth it. I hope he becomes a big success in movies. Mm-hmm. And he had a few shaky runs, with the movies that he was in, but then he started being cast in James Bond and Guardian. Like he's done so well for himself, and I couldn't be happy.
For sure.
Yeah, he's honestly, I'd argue he's been in better movies than The Rock.
Without a doubt. And
The Rock's movies sell absurdly well.
I love The Rock, but he is The Rock as The Rock in The Rock, just wearing a smaller shirt every single. At some point, his shirt's going to be a patch on his tit. But
have you seen him in Moana? That guy has a voice. He has a voice of an angel. The Rock.
What can't he do?
I didn't think the voice was that good, but he was passionate about it. Like you can tell he really enjoyed singing those things.
Yeah,
he did.
It's just that Batista's timing Batista's timing builds on actual comedic timing, where The Rock is like, I'm a big dude, I'm gonna flex my pecs and throw you through a wall, which is great because I love those movies. But like, it's not the same fucking thing. And in number 2, when and this is not a spoiler for anybody, it's just something he says. But when he starts laughing and says, she just said your most personal secret, I mean, I'm fucking legitimately I'm just in the theater laughing out loud because he's a child. He's got an IQ of like,
he's a child,
it's pretty low, but he's a child. He's so innocent. And the inability for him to understand talking that isn't perfect. And when he says like something that it just went over your head, and he's like, nothing goes over my head, I'm too fast. And the way
I will catch it.
I will catch it. Why would I do this? Why would I drag my? You're just like, Jesus Christ. He doesn't get anything. And it reminds me of The Rock, the movie The Rock with Sean Connery and with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery talking. Sean Connery turns around and gives him a thumbs up, and Nicolas Cage goes, "Okay, what does that mean?" And that is exactly it's that miscommunication, because every movie pretends everybody understands what everybody else is doing. But in Guardians of the Galaxy, none of them ever understand what the other one's doing. The entire movie.
You guys are selling me on this. Not that I had to really be, just my philosophy, it's so fucked up. But for me, it's like, I'll sit down, I'm like, I could watch a movie right now, I'm like, or I could get through this game, and then I'll just play the game. And all the time. Like, there's so many shows I want to watch, so many movies I want to watch, but I'm like, I don't really want to balance all of that. I just kind of want to. So, like, I got to just make sure I'm in the mood. And, like, when I sit down and watch a movie, like, I watch, like, fucking 3 in a day. I'm like, all right, cool. Banged out some movies. I'm good for another month or 2, and I'll watch the movies later.
Smash both Guardians, and I quickly want to mention, not a spoiler, but in the second one, Karak, the relationship between Mantis and Dave Bautista, man. Oh,
it's awesome.
It was so funny.
Dude, it's legitimately like, I mean, it sounds weird, but I swear to God, I felt like I was sort of watching somebody who found their place. Chris Pratt in Parks and Rec, for example, is the same way. I saw Parks and Rec, and I'm like, this is funny. And then Chris Pratt shows up, and he's hilarious. And I'm like, man, I didn't expect this. And then I watched Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, this is a perfect transition. It feels like Batista's starting at that transition.
And you know what's really funny? If you listen to podcasts with Batista and interviews, he talks about how, like, Batista's a big ripped guy, right? And you need that for the character to play Drax, because apparently Drax in the comics is like a huge character. But Chris Pratt got so ripped, and he's probably as big as Batista, and they have to like play with different shots to make Batista look bigger.
Stallone moments where he puts Stallone on a milk case. Yeah.
It's fucking great.
It's crazy. I think you're missing out by not sitting down and spending 4 hours.
We should talk about movies more often in this podcast. It's great.
All right. I mean, if you guys want to make this a part of the show, I don't mind. I'll go out and watch more movies. I mean, then
at least
that'll give me I shouldn't say it like this, like, it'll give me a reason to, but like, if I know we're going to sit down and really discuss movies, like what we're doing now with Spider-Man and Guardians, then like, yeah. I mean, I always request it.
Did any of you watch Wonder Woman?
No.
I did.
No.
Oh, Matt. Yeah, that's a great movie too. Wonder Woman was
looking to get to.
Awesome. Just such a good
DC
movie. I love that.
Like,
no, you know what? I've been so turned off by DC movies because I am not a fan of Zack Snyder. A passion.
Me neither.
I did not like Watchmen.
Bro fist.
I did not like. I just don't like Zack Snyder movies. And then with with Wonder Woman, they got a different fucking director, regardless of whether she was a male or female, whatever it is. It was just a different director than Zack Snyder, and I'm like, yes, it's gonna be a good movie.
Or could be a good movie at least. You know, which is it's always nice to have the option. Yeah, because man, Zack motherfucker doesn't understand anything, man. I swear to God, the dude sexed himself up into power, because his shit is just ludicrous sometimes, and you're like, how do you still get spots?
Like, you say the same thing about like Michael Bay? People think that about him.
No, yeah, but Transformers does so well. That's
exactly. I think they're so far beyond.
It has its
now.
own purpose. Yeah, like people know what they're getting into.
And let's be honest,
Michael Bay ruins my Ninja Turtles. Fucking
he ruined my Transformers. Remember, I'm a typical 1980s kid, so to me Transformers isn't this weird fucking Jenga puzzle bullshit you see in his movies, but they're Fast and the Furious with transforming fucking cars. So like it's, and then I mean it's Mark Wahlberg. Like he's pretty much in anything that's going to be a big movie, and he does a pretty okay job.
Yeah,
it's just different. It's just different. Zach just doesn't direct well. I mean,
yeah,
I agree.
Man of Steel, I remember that was he directed that, right? Because that was a snooze fest. Holy shit. I did not like that movie. Like, usually I'm like, all right, that was okay. Like, not a big deal. But, like, what movies I'm good at keeping up with, like, I got to admit, Pixar films. I love them so much.
Me too. Yeah. Cars 3 is the only one. Is that out yet?
Yeah, that's out. I haven't gotten around to seeing that. But, dude, Pixar films, I'm, like, on my shit. I love Pixar. They like, never fuck up.
The original Cars movie felt like a proper Disney movie, like for the first time in ages when I first watched that. I was like, you know what? I haven't watched a movie like that since The Lion King. First Cars was beautiful. I loved it.
Man, The Lion King always has my heart because it's got Jeremy Irons in it, who I fucking love. And he's so good in that. But yeah, and speaking of games, back to games, because this is a slight gaming podcast, mostly about movies.
Yeah.
But some Toy Story 3, the video game, phenomenal.
Excellent. I love that game.
A thing?
Totally surprised. And one of my friends at another forum was like, dude, you need to check this out. I'm telling you, check it out on a weekend. I bought it a couple weekends ago, turned it on, and I was like, oh my God, this is legitimately amazing. Like, how did I miss this?
Mode
so
is so good.
It is insane.
Genius.
It is such a well done game. And I think many people thought it was a tie-in, an IP tie-in, and just didn't give it a chance.
I remember 2011 because I have a Let's Play on my
Is
channel.
that when it came
the whole
out?
Fucking game. Yeah, I have a Let's Play on my channel of this game.
2011. Holy shit!
I remember I bought it as a joke. I was like, "This is gonna be a stupid Let's Play I'm gonna do." I remember playing it and being like, I didn't know that I thought that the game was that toy box mode. I remember I was sitting down to record this Let's Play. I played for 4 fucking hours before I realized I was not recording because I got so absorbed in the game. I was like, this shit's so good.
Oh,
that is one of the best tie-in games ever made in the most unlikely property. So good.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, since we're transitioning back to games, let's talk
about... Write the time down real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Gotcha. Let's talk
Welcome back, non-spoiler people.
Yeah, I was going to say, welcome back.
So, when Spider-Man dies at the end of this movie... Just joking.
Let's talk about...
It's not Spider-Man, it's Batman.
Jason Vandenberg. Vandenberg, yeah, okay, I just want to make sure I'm saying his name right, leaves Ubisoft and joins ArenaNet. Now, for those who don't know, ArenaNet is the developer of, like, Guild Wars 2, the recent expansion they just had for Guild Wars 2. Really different transition for a guy who was a big history buff. It seemed like For Honor was really a passion project. It seemed to have caught a lot of people's attention as it gradually released this year, and then it really dipped off. It lost half its player base in 2 weeks. And now we hear that the director of this game is leaving Ubisoft and going to a studio that makes, I believe, I haven't done too much research on Guild Wars 2, but I believe it's more like a fantasy kind of game.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of an MMO. Really different change of scenery. And we were talking about earlier how we have these really toxic places in gaming that developers work at. They get overworked and they just want out. And Karak, you said you heard something, so I was curious what...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is not from a normal source, but the rumor had been that the switches that were coming out and some of the stuff that was going on and the loss of the player base, there was something behind the scenes where it was like sort of a make it or break it kind of discussion, where it was like, we need to do this, and if we don't, I'm gonna start looking around. And then he talks about how he went to ArenaNet on a lark, which no one really jumps on a plane on a lark usually because that costs a little money. So I'm sure he thought something when he was going there, and he said he got there. The people at ArenaNet sat him down and basically pitched him something, which he hasn't really said what this something is. And he decided right then and there, he's like, I'm done. So I have a feeling, I mean, some weird shit went on with For Honor. I mean, I think everybody can agree that game went from this to whatever it is now.
Yeah, very fast.
Pretty quickly, right? So it might burn him out.
It's not getting that... Here's the thing: is I thought For Honor was a decent game, but it's not getting that Rainbow Six Siege type of attention. It could have been that same platform. It has the same infrastructure, in my opinion. So I don't know why it didn't. So yeah, I agree. Something went on with that game, and it's post-launch support. That's one thing I've always said. Ubisoft's done a good job getting their act together, but they need to work harder and faster to get, just because of how the gaming climate is, just to get this DLC out at a quicker rate. Because that's why we see these articles like, oh man, we just lost half our player base in 2 weeks. And yeah, that's partially due to the game itself. But if they didn't make you wait like 3 months for just 2 new characters to come out, like they did with Siege, you know, where it's like one map, a new, like 2 new characters, and that's like in the span of every like 4 to 5 months. I mean, that's such a long wait that players eventually dip out, and when it finally comes, they're not invested anymore. So I think that had something to do with it, the numbers. But I mean, for a guy who is so into history, why do you think he goes to a fantasy studio? Change of scenery? The people?
You can still be influenced by history and fantasy and just do what you want. We have much more creative freedom.
True.
Yeah.
They have some idea for him.
What, Nate? Did you play it, Nate?
Huh? Pardon?
Did you play For Honor?
Yeah, it was all right. I didn't particularly care for it. It was a good game. It tried to do something different, but it didn't hold my attention at all. Like after a week, it was just They had an interesting concept for like the multiplayer map and everything, and how it was like shifting factions and whatnot. But it was also way too difficult for me to really care to try and figure out and understand, so I just didn't bother.
Really? Yeah. See, that's the thing is, it was very mechanical. Even when you fought people online, it was very easy to just break down the game and find the easiest way to win, which was to grab and stagger the person, either kick them against the wall or kick them off the fucking edge. That worked without fail. I think what they really should have done, this is one of the few games I would say this for, is this was a title that didn't need a campaign, as far as I'm concerned. It really didn't need one. I would have rathered them take the Siege route once again and just, you know, maybe do like the training missions and the operations they did in Siege, but like devote all those resources to the multiplayer and a couple of extra classes, more maps, more modes. I think that would have served the game better, and maybe you wouldn't have seen the same problem where this player base is leaving. Because I agree, I thought it was a really unique title. It was basically a fighting game, right? But no one really knew it. It wore the disguise of this third-person action game, but plays like a fighter. So I gotta say, I really appreciate it. It sucks to see the game just kind of fall off the face of the earth, though.
I think Ubisoft made a mistake also so if it's a fighting game, because I would agree that for many people that's what we would call it. If you look at Siege and you break down Siege into its gameplay elements, there's a lot of strategy. There's attacking, retreating, all this kind of stuff. There's far less in For Honor, and there's far less overall strategy and different weapons you can use. You know, a sword's a sword's a sword. You have just a couple different things. Where in a Siege, you have all manner of different ways in which you can do things. And so they scheduled their release pattern like they did with Siege. But the difference is Siege's gameplay is far more complex.
True. Like
it or hate it, that's what happened. And then you have this long-term, we're going to release some characters, and it's like, okay, but I'm just not back into it at this point. Additionally, let's remember, they had a shit ton of technical issues with the servers. They had a nasty amount of, and people, when you're playing those kind of games, man, when you start having those kind of issues, I just don't think it takes very long if there's also the lack of strategy in the long run, the ability to last a while, the ability to engage and then retreat in Siege is far higher than in For Honor. For Honor, usually once you come together, somebody's dying.
Yeah.
Most of the time, right? But in Siege, I can't tell you how many times I've fought into a room and then evacuated because it wasn't working. And there's that cool feeling of lethality mixed with longevity of each time you play that doesn't exist in For Honor. And I think that
is one of my biggest regrets from 2015 is because I didn't have enough hours in it at the time. But God, that would be in my top 3 games from that year if I were to read
For Honor.
No, Siege.
Oh, Siege. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is such a good game. And, you know, that was the only reason I stopped playing Siege is because I like Overwatch so much. But, oh, man, Siege, so good. Yeah, I get what you mean, though. They tried with For Honor to really stretch the resources. You had characters with longer range. I remember, like, Kensei would be able to, like, dodge and slash to the left or right, I think, or something like that. So, I forgot the name of the class that I played as, but it was kind of like the rogue and with the 2 knives. And, like, if you grab someone, if you stab them, you'd poison them. So they tried to make it where each class was varied, and I think they did a pretty successful job. But as you said, you know, a sword's a sword's a sword. So it's not like you're building this different loadout in Siege where, you know, you got the riot shield or you got the really heavy magnum behind the riot shield, or maybe you want a more rapid fire
or you're
pistol.
coming in from the ceiling.
Yeah,
like I mean,
yeah,
even
or you're blowing open walls and flying.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's
it's just
a lot
it's
of
out
dynamics.
there. It's out there.
It would have been cool if you had like a ballista and you could just fire down and break walls, take
Put your
out
body
towers
of the
shit.
guy you just killed into the fucking ballista. Ooh, that'd be awesome.
I'd fucking dig that. But yeah, it's a shame that that's how it ended up. Lone, I think you said you were planning on playing For Honor. Has that changed?
I just played the campaign. I actually liked the campaign. I thought it was a nice little campaign, but I never got into the multiplayer. So I was really weird with For Honor because I only really like playing.
You know, there's definitely got to be a demographic out there who appreciates.
Well, yeah, just likes playing single player campaigns, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I will say that the For Honor single player campaign it was short and sweet. The story was okay, but I could see why this game is kind of like not doing too well. Like, it didn't just wow me, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
And Siege has this level of like cooperation and anxiety that For Honor couldn't capture. Like in For Honor, like you're supposed to be playing with the team, but it really at the end of the day doesn't matter as long as you're all just decent at pressing buttons fast enough. But in Siege, you got to cooperate with people when someone's firing at you. You get anxious, you get excited, and that doesn't really happen in For Honor that much. It's like, oh, damn it, I died.
Well, absolutely, and when you really think about it, I wouldn't say For Honor boils down to pressing buttons, but more so that if your teammate did, it's about a respect factor. It's a community thing, and if someone says "fuck this guy" and you get double teamed, like you're basically as good as dead. It's so hard to fight off two people unless you press triangle and use that revenge thing, and you knock everyone off, and you're all of a sudden a fucking tank and can take like 20 hits. Then you're fine, but most of the time, yeah, it's a respect thing where, like you said, Siege is that team-based tactical effort where it's like, all right, I'm going to blow up the wall at this time. You're going to blow it up right after. They're going to be scattered and confused. Then we're going to flush in. You know, so it's that different level of cooperation that I think makes a huge difference.
Fort building, I think as kids, I don't know about you guys. I don't know. Alone, I don't even know if like Australians have couches, but because you're like a third world country. But when I was a kid, I built couch forts, right, all the time. Like couch forts where you'd take the bottom cushions, you'd fold them up, you'd take the top cushions, you put them over, and you'd have a cave. And I'd watch cartoons in there and shit. Mm-hmm. I swear to God, Siege nailed that for me. The ability for me to put up reinforcements on walls and like build safe places. There was something about that made me feel like a kid. Like there's a strategy that just comes out of nowhere. It's the ballistic shield is the same way. There's something that's just like, oh shit, I can do this to affect not only myself but someone else. Like I can not only negatively but positively my own team. And barbed wire, there's just something about it that it captured the kid in me, and I was just like, oh fuck, I can do this, I can do that. And I think that For Honor, man, when I played it, I'm like you guys, like I played it and it evaporated. I even had a review copy. It just never got reviewed. People would be all, are you going to review For Honor? I'm like, well, I got to play it more. And I never returned to it.
Yeah,
I just
dude,
never did.
Because another thing about Siege is that tension that comes from like when you're huddled in your corner, you got like the shield up in front of you, you reinforce the walls behind you, and all of a sudden you hear the thermite charge, like the and you're like,
and then you're just like, where?
Yeah. You just gotta hurdle the wall and sprint the fuck out and try to find cover real quick. Like it's just the dynamic nature of that game. It's so good. It shocks me that and I haven't played a lot of the original Rainbow Six games, but it shocks me that there's like a community of people who's like, this isn't how Rainbow Six was. I'm like, but this is like really dynamic, exciting gameplay. I don't get it. I thought it was a really good game, and that was a game that like when I first saw the gameplay of, people were stoked, and I was on the other side of the fence and thinking like, nah, not really feeling it. But I think that's because of the E3 demo catastrophe that struck Ubisoft pretty hard. All right, any final comments on
Nah, I'm all good.
You're all good, Lone? Nate?
Ah, you've done it again.
Yeah, I'm good. There was a skill ceiling to it. Like you could be good at it. I agree. It wasn't just button mashing, but it wasn't the same type of gameplay at all compared to Siege that kept you coming back.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the PS5. It's never too early for that bullshit, right? An analyst has predicted that the PlayStation 5 is coming in 2019. Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to emphasize analyst prediction. All right. It's
Michael
coming in
Pachter,
2019.
specifically.
Yeah, Michael Pachter, and he said it's going to be another half step. And by that, he was referring that the PS4, then the PS4 Pro was a half step. So then the PS5 is going to be that another half step. We're not going to see what would be a generational leap like the PS2 to the 3, I think is the most common comparison, or the original Xbox to the 360. So with that said, does this make, do you guys think, let's let the consoles live a little bit longer? It's only been 4 years now. Because for me, the first console cycle I really was like there from start to finish for was the 360 PS3 one. So I'm really curious to hear like Karak's thoughts on it. Lone, I want to hear yours, Nate's. So fire away. Is it too soon for the PS5?
I'll let these two go first.
If it's a half step, yes, I think so.
If we're being technical with it, I mean, if it comes out in 2019, then that's 6 years since the PS4 was out, which is about the same length of time as the PS2 to PS3, etc. Technically, right? But it feels too soon. I think towards the end of last gen, it felt like the right time.
Yes.
But this time around, because we've had those mid-gen cycle refreshes with the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X coming out, it feels like a different time where I wouldn't want to see a PS5 in 2019, if at all. I mean, I would just rather these consoles be improved continuously with better upgrades. I know that it goes against the traditional console cycle, but I don't know if I want to go back to that. I guess maybe because I'm used to PC and I can just be like, well, I'm going to upgrade this aspect of my PC and I don't have to get a PC too. You know what I mean? It feels too soon. That's just my opinion.
PC2 cracks me up. I don't know why.
You know you want it.
The PC2. Everything is better. What about you, Nate?
Like it's pretty weird for me because it seems as though technology is advancing faster than Microsoft and Sony are able to put consoles out for. When the Xbox 360 and the PS3 released, they were almost relatively high-end PCs. And then when the Xbox One and PS4 came out, they were like mid-ish at best. And it looks like Microsoft is trying to kind of take that back. The Xbox One X has more cores than like Grand Theft Auto 5 characters have fingers. So it's looking like they're trying to do something there. It's almost a high-end PC. But it seems like it would make more sense to just, maybe allow upgrades in some capacity. The problem I have with PCs is they're so inconvenient to make. Like, people would tell me, oh, it's only $400. It's so easy. You're throwing your money away at the console. But I liked that convenience. I valued that. I like knowing I didn't have to wait like a week for the parts to arrive. And I knew if it didn't work, worst case scenario, I go back to the store with the receipt. And the PC, has never really had that.
Apparently.
I know, yeah, it makes me terrible. So
and that's exactly why when I bought my PC, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy a pre-built because if anything goes wrong, I don't have to figure that shit out. I take the box back and they work it out. I don't have to take out which component and see, is it my graphics card that's wrong? Is it my motherboard? I got to send that individual bit back and be without a computer for 2 weeks. Like, I get that.
It's a hassle when shit fails.
Yeah, but I'm a casual, so.
I feel like if consoles or if Microsoft and Sony could find a way to almost make them sort of upgradable in a way, because that does somewhat remove the convenience. But I feel like if they did that to an extent, it would feel almost it would be more streamlined in a sense. There'd be less risk attached. You'd know exactly what to get more or less. Whereas with PCs, they're all over the place. Like I recently tried to upgrade my video card. My tower, it didn't fit my tower, so I kind of had to tear that apart. And I ended up sending it into a place.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
When it finally comes in the mail and it's too big, fuck.
But the confidence and convenience that a PlayStation 4 Xbox
offers, finally comes in the mail and it's too big.
Yeah, right when it came out up there.
Damn, that was awesome. That's the best sentence ever said on a Friday.
That's why you got to measure inches and lengths, man.
Yeah, girth. It's all about. Sorry, Nate. I interrupted you. That was just crazy. Continue.
That was pretty much it. I'm interested to see how Sony does, because it seems like right now Microsoft is already pushing what ZeniMax would call the bleeding edge of console technology. So maybe Sony will do something good and they'll blow us away. But the PS4 Pro was pretty disappointing to me, in my opinion. So we'll see if the PS4 Pro 2 or PS5 does the same.
So let's adjudicate our cunnilinga here for a second. Yes. As in, let's educate people. PS3 and the Xbox 360 were PowerPC, completely different style of processor. Yeah. One of the positives of that was a much higher clock core. For example, the 360 was at 3.6. Xbox One, I think, is 1.8, if I remember right, something like that. But of course, add more. Additionally, you look at the fact that multi-threading has never been that good even on PC-style titles, and that's what Xbox One and PS4 have both had to transfer into. One of the problems with status quo kind of hardware configurations like we're getting is that you can't have the jumps and the customization without accruing a financial risk that is instantly noticeable by everyone who's building it. So let me give you an example. When people made the 360, no one knew what 256 megs of onboard RAM was going to be like versus 512 until Cliff Basinski built a level of Gears with both and showed it to Microsoft, who then immediately said 512. So what happens is you have a safer moment now. Xbox One, PS4 Pro, it's safer. It's it's a typical CPU. It's a CPU we all see. So we're going to adjust this CU a little bit. We're going to adjust this computational unit. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. The problem is in the past, there was a little bit of secret sauce. The cells were pretty cool. The RAM on the 360 really surprised developers because it allowed them to do some crazy stuff. And what's happened is that extended those. So their power at the time came out, and they were very powerful, and they looked very good, and their power went, it basically pushed them. Most people assume it's 1 to 2 years past when they should have been replaced. So what happens is if you look at fabs and how fabs put together CPUs, what that means is the Xbox One and PS4 came in at the starting instead of at the end of something, or you could almost say in the middle of these CPUs. And so what they got was mid-range. Additionally, Microsoft and Sony both chose to go with a low power spec that no one really knows why they chose this, other than Microsoft has hinted that because it's a home box, we want it to be a low power spec, so they went with the Jaguar mobile CPUs. So these jumps that we're seeing now are offset. They're different times. Something akin to the Sega Saturn coming out early. It was a little bit more powerful, but then boom, the PS was there, and it was even more powerful because it was a full set more. So I think when you look at, will we have a PS5, will we have whatever, you can simply look at fabs, you can look at the prices, and you can say, okay, does this make sense? And to be honest, if Pachter's saying this, I'm assuming what he heard was this, because it makes perfect sense if you look at it being a 0.5. What he probably heard is that the CPU is going to switch over to the next ramp down for the nanometer, and you're going to have a CPU that matches their GPU currently, which it doesn't. It's offset by 2 to 1, which means the GPU is basically 2 times as powerful as it needs to be for the CPU that we're seeing. And what that would do is you'd have a PS4 Pro. So you'd have the somewhat the same video card because you're already getting 4K or native and checkerboard, but you'd have a CPU that could get you closer to your 60 frames per second. And of course, developers will choose 30 and make it look better if that's what they can do. The Xbox One X is doing the same thing. It's just stepped even further, and they figured out some ways to overclock it even more. They added some CU units on there. But I think if we want to see a full upgrade, we have to pretend that history doesn't exist and that these companies didn't figure out they can sell us the half upgrade, and they did. Yeah. People buy iPhones. Thousands and thousands of them, man. I know people with like 8 iPhones, and I don't think they fucking have made a call on each one of them. So
fucking scrubs.
They're 400, right? Yeah, exactly. So 300, 400 for a phone, those kind of things. People, there's a little less of an issue there, and then convenience. People will pay for it, and it's something that Nate said eloquently. It's like the convenience factor, and that's the thing. Their convenience is there. Microsoft knows it. Sony knows it. Microsoft's going to do the X. I don't see any reason why Sony won't do a PS4 Pro. The only thing that scares the shit out of me, guys, is that the PS4 Pro is less than 10% of total new sales on the PS4. Yeah. What that indicates to me is 2 things. One, HDR should not have been in the PS4 Pro or PS4 normal. If I was not, because as a consumer, I think it should be. I'm saying if I was a business manager. HDR is in both. That probably shouldn't have happened, so that you differentiate yourself. And I think it does show that the PS4 Pro has some issues in the CPU units and its frame rate and that kind of situation. But we're looking at a problem. I don't see how they can go back to the 111 kind of release. The Sega Saturn, the Dreamcast, the SNES, the what was it, GameCube, N64? N64 is next, right? I just don't see how. And the reason why is because the money is there. And it is. I mean, the money is there. And if it's easier and if it's more convenient, then people will buy it. And they can sell that pretty easily, I think. And I do think we'll see a 0.5. And I don't see them going back to waiting 6 years in the true sense.
Because
they'll always be
when you do the half steps.
They'll always, exactly. And Microsoft's smart. Microsoft has had a half step this entire generation, the computer. Not to be rude,
the One X.
but they have always had a second SKU. And what they're trying to do is branch it up a little bit more power, still convenient, but a little bit more power to get those people who are thinking about getting a PC, but they don't want a CPU that's too big to show up, or a GPU like Matty and Nate had. So they're like, I'll go with an Xbox One X. I just see that convenience, which is fine. People will continue to purchase those. And I do not see us going back to, I just don't see why any company would do it unless a new technology came forward. PPC, a new type of ARM, like the Switch, if that kind of technology branched off and we saw ultra powerful things coming from them, I could see if the leap was there, you can do it. But I think we're in dire straits when it comes to anybody wanting a full generation wait. I don't think it'll happen again.
I don't know, and I wouldn't see the reason why, if I was sitting in Sony's position, why I would. Now, obviously, they have the numbers, and they're looking at it and saying, well, when you release a new full refresh, like the
everybody buys in.
Everyone gets excited. Everyone's like, oh, it's a PS5 now. It's all about naming and it's all about marketing, right? And advertising that product. And that's why I think partly anyways, that the PS4 Pro didn't sell as well. And Sony's probably looking at that and saying, well, our mid-gen console refresh didn't do that well, but maybe if we did a PS5, people would actually get excited about it because it's a brand new thing, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that I would temper that with is that usually console makers, unless you're Nintendo, aren't really making much of a profit, if at all, from their actual hardware sales. So if I was in their position, I would just prefer to say, you know what, we have God knows how many PS4s out there, over 40 million at this stage. We have a good amount of PS4 Pros. Let's just, I like Xbox's plan to say, we're just going to have this one family where everyone has access to the same games. It's the Xbox One family. And if they just keep, every now and again, every couple of years or 3 years, releasing a new console that doesn't try and distinguish itself from its past counterparts, but everyone still feels like it's the one family, then no one, I guess on one side, no one feels obligated to buy the new console, but that's probably why Sony might be thinking about doing a PS5 in the first place, because people want to buy something separate and different and special.
Or naming it that, I think, is what you're saying. It may not be a 5, but it's just the name.
And that's the thing, Karak. Like, you were mentioning a lot about actual, technological upgrades that would justify being a call to PS5. I mean, from my standpoint, I don't care what's in the box. I mean, they'll call it a PS5 if they want to call it a PS5. Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yeah. Like, the only reason they do that is because it has enough power in there, whether it's the same, based on the same CPU as past gens, it doesn't really matter. That if it's powerful enough to, for example, push out native 4K 30 frames per second solidly, then they'll call it a PS5.
So, do you think, we'll say this next generation comes in 2019, we got the PS5, the Xbox hypothetical too. What would you define games as at that point in time? Because what I feel like we've seen in video games now, since the PS4 has released, is much more high quality end of the 360 PS3 era type games, if you know what I mean, like those big games, but now they're doing more with the graphics, they're adding a little bit more content. It's not like we talked about that huge leap. So when you see the PS5, the Xbox 2, what kind of games are you thinking of? Because me, the first thing I think of is, let's get the mainstream to be the common thing to be, every game can do 4K 60 FPS no matter what game it is. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, but you do not want to. Okay, so you don't want to tell a developer
options to pick between. Right,
that's what I was going to say, because a developer will look at that and go, wait, we're okay with 30 because we're Telltale.
Specified, like more customization for the player experience. You know what I'm talking about, where it kind of runs like a PC in that sense, but I'm sure the UI would be more simplified where you start up the game. We were talking about a couple games that did this. I forgot what game it was. I think it was Nier, who had like an action mode or something like that. I don't remember.
No, Neo.
Neo, that's what it was, right? There was a 60 FPS action mode, and there was like a performance mode, something along those lines. So stuff like that, like seeing more options like that, that's what I expect in the future. Like, do you want this open world game to run at 60 FPS at a lower resolution or vice versa? That's personally what I'd hope to see in the next generation, along with the games as we see them grow now.
Ark's already doing that on console, which that's a game I really used to like, and I don't really care for it that much more. But they already have that option, like detailed graphics or performance graphics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
you know, that's important because not everyone has a 4K TV. I mean, what's the uptake in the US now? 13%.
Yeah.
Maybe by 2019, 2020, it's closer to 50. But you know, people still are out there that just want to play 1080p and would prefer 60 frames. I mean, I don't know how many conversations I've had with people on PC that are like, I will always go for the lower resolution if it means it runs at a solid 60 frames, because you don't really notice those slight decreases in graphical quality, but you sure as hell notice when the frames are dropping.
I'll tell you what, you're talking to a totally different demographic than I talk to. That's insane. That's
really
insane. It's insane. I cannot believe you even said that.
You've played a lot of HDR, Forza Horizon 3
specifically. But I mean, the number of people I know who I don't actually, I want to make sure, I'm not saying he's insane or that those people are insane who are saying it for that specific thing. It's one thing he said, which is that it's a small change. 1080p to 4K resolution.
No, I'm more sorry, small change in regards to, let's say, changes in texture quality, right? I mean,
okay, sure.
People will go for, I guess, medium shadows instead of higher shadows if it means that games runs at as a solid frame. However, there are also people out there that will actively say, I don't want to play 4K until 60 frames is possible. Because right now, even with some of the highest graphics cards out there, like a 1080 Ti, Titan X, they still can't output 4K at 60 frames. So people are actively saying, I'd rather stick at 1080p at very high graphics settings, get a solid 60 frames at least, and that's going to be a more enjoyable game experience, you know?
That's why I think we'll see stuff like the X, which is going to downsample every game. You know, if you're not 4K, it'll downsample, and 1080p downsampled looks fantastic anyway. So that, you know,
it should be downsampled to 60 frames. It really should be.
Well, that's the problem. Is that's CPU versus GPU. A lot of people get those. You know, you don't, but I'm saying a lot of people think that it should be easy, and you'll hear like lazy dev, and it's like, no, just go masturbate in.
Can they just work harder and make it happen?
Yeah, it just that's not the way the real world works. So, but when it comes down to it, I would agree with Lone that like some people will certainly take the, you know, a D grade in one area for the other, those kind of things. But I do think that we're forgetting there's a couple bits of technology that you don't hear about. You won't hear about like HDR because it's not as easily viewable, but is going to be on the Xbox One X. And I would be shocked if it's not on the PS5. We'll call it the PS. We'll just call it the 5. And that's any kind of variable refresh. So with G-Sync style, that's something that's in the Xbox One X. It'll be supported by any TV that supports it. That is insane. That if it all comes to fruition like it looks like it's going to, that is a larger impact than many of the other things we're talking about, including, sadly enough, even though I love it, HDR. Because a lot of people I'll show HDR to, if they haven't watched the same thing on non-HDR a little bit before, they can sometimes go, I can't see the big difference.
Exactly.
And I'm the same way. My friend got this 80-inch 4K, or I think it's a huge fucking 4K TV. And I needed a side-by-side because when I first got there, we went there for UFC fights. I was like, yeah, it looks good, you know. And then like I saw, you know, wait, come here, look at it on this TV, and I was like, oh. Okay.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I was like, all right, now I'm seeing like the
side by side.
Yeah,
you know, yeah.
And that's exactly what I mean. Why some people won't care, because they don't have a 4K monitor and a 1080p monitor and say, well, which one fucking looks better? It better, like, you know,
also
be a big upgrade.
Hard to sell over the internet when you're doing it through live streams and YouTube videos, trying to say like, look how beautiful this looks on this TV. It's like, All right. Well, I'm watching through.
Twitch only allows 6 up, right? 6 megabytes.
Yeah.
So already. So that's 720p at 60 FPS max. Anything above that, and you have horrendous artifacting. So you're talking 4K. Imagine these companies trying to show off on YouTube with YouTube compression. You and I both know about compression. Like you'll have this awesome video, you'll upload it, and YouTube will be all "fuck you," it'll crush your dreams. It's gonna be weird to see.
Pretty looking video. You'll be boasting, "Wow, this game is beautiful." You won't believe what you see, and then like the fucking video just stutters, and there's like
or HDR. I mean, YouTube just started supporting HDR, so uploads. So that's another thing. I think that we're getting into this odd territory where once you get to like checkerboarding in real 4K, some people can't see that. Who already couldn't see 30 and 60, who couldn't see 720p and 900p. We're getting into a really weird time.
There's some people who genuinely can't see it. I love the kid to death, but I had a friend who tried telling me, he's like, yeah, Zelda runs at 60 FPS. I'm like, no.
Which Zelda?
The Breath of the Wild.
No way.
Fucking shit.
Yeah. I had the same thing. I sounded like such a cock about it too. I was like, you think.
Yeah, like an evil genius. That's not what I meant to sound like, but that's the reaction.
That's what I did. I had that fucking evil laugh, and he was like, what the fuck, dude? I was like, sorry, but that was so ridiculous.
That's awesome, though. It's so mean, but you're not being mean, but it's like, come on.
I was like, I was like, come on, Brian. Come on. He's like, okay.
So here's what I want to see, and I want to know what you guys think. Do you know what I want to see on... So Xbox One's already doing a ton of updates this week with being able to stream together, which is awesome. So you can have multiple people stream. Fucking phenomenal. But here's the thing. I want to see controllers change. I want to see better controllers. I want to see the Elite be the basic for the same amount of money. I want to see batteries last longer. I want to see the PS4 be usable at all. I fucking hate that piece of shit controller on the PS4 with its battery length like a fucking...
Oh my god, dude.
The DualShock.
Like I literally think I'm losing my mind when I go on marathon sessions of that game. I plug it in. It's full battery. I'm like, all right, cool. I unplug it. Like I go play for like an hour and it tells me your battery's low again. I'm like, dude, didn't I had this plugged in? I swear I did.
So I want to see stuff like that. That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for seeing everything else sort of come up and like beat where they're not right now. I don't think, at least. I mean, 150 for an Elite? Fuck you. I mean, no, seriously, I would punch somebody in the balls if I was in a meeting and somebody was like, we're going to charge 150 for a controller. If the controller played the game for you, maybe. But come the fuck on, right? Does anybody think 150?
No,
let's be honest.
No.
I
have trouble spending 60 on a controller.
I've stayed away from... I think the Xbox Elite's closer to $200 in Australia.
What?
And then there's the Pro controller for the Switch was like 80 at launch. I was just like, no.
Yeah.
I was like,
Xbox,
play with what you give me.
Xbox Elite wireless controller is $200 at Epic Games, and I'm just like, that's like almost half the price of a Switch. It's
these guys have perspective. You're charging $150. Add $30 to that. I could buy 3 fucking games and play with your controller you gave me.
No, but it's targeting a different demographic. It's exactly like the Xbox One. It's targeting a completely different demographic.
What I'm saying is I don't
not
want
targeting
it to alone. I'm saying I don't want it to.
Oh no, and I completely I get where you're like.
I want that to be the basic.
If the Xbox Elite controller was priced like a regular one, I think that would be $80 or maybe closer to 100 in Australia. I'd be like, fuck yeah, that'd be awesome, right? So, but the things that it comes with, I know it's not appealing to me because I'm not like super Call of Duty. I need all those extra triggers and shit like that. It's not appealing to me, so I don't care about the price.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
What are the advantages to the Elite? Like the battery lasts longer. There's paddles.
Yeah.
Oh, the paddles.
It's pretty customizable.
Yeah.
Dude, I had paddles. I have a Microsoft controller around here somewhere from the 90s that does that, and I have still used it until it finally stopped having drivers updated by fans. And I'm telling you, once you get accustomed to having the paddles, fighting games, it doesn't matter what game, racing, anything. You don't have to use the digital pad. You can use those if you want to transfer things. It's fucking phenomenal how just that little bit adds to the game. And I want it to be basic, because if we're gonna charge more, if you're gonna have a system that's almost a PC, then fucking give us some more. Give us a little bit more, in the controllers. And I mean, charging batteries.
Where I think they should start, Karak, they should bundle one Xbox Elite controller with the Xbox One X.
You're absolutely right. Without a shadow of a doubt, that is absolutely what they should do. And they should also have a pack-in game, because fuck every company that stopped pack-in games.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They used to be the norm. That used to be the norm.
I don't understand why it doesn't. I mean, let's be honest.
What happened to the days of getting the double-sided game packages where you had like
or cardboard, and you just open it was just the disc.
I remember Forza Motorsport and then fucking Jet Set Radio, and I was like, yes. Or you could pick which one you got with the game. I mean, with the system.
I think the best choice for the Xbox One X2 is Master Chief Collection. I mean, is it really selling that well now? I don't know, right? But they're older games. That it's a nice pack-in because there's 3 of them or whatever it is. I think it's 4.
And it's getting updated.
And it's getting updated. I'd put that in there with the Xbox One X. That would be awesome. And then obviously, I don't know if you have like 2 versions, one with a pack-in, one with not, because maybe people don't want to. Like, the only problem with pack-ins is if there's a pack-in game and the console's $500, for argument's sake, some people might be like, well, I don't want that game, I already have it, sell it to me for $450. That's the only problem with packing.
This is going to be like one of those Ruby Slipper situations we were talking about.
I agree.
But here's not what you're talking about, because I completely agree. What I'm about to say, which is I fucking hate when you unbox a console now and it comes with a game and it's a fucking DLC code. I'm like, really? It costs that much to just put the fucking case in there with the disc? You just had to give me a DLC code? It's a nostalgia
factor. You need to have that box, man.
It's so fucking dumb.
It makes a lot of sense, though, from a business perspective, because if you've already made the decision to buy the console, if you're already paying $500, adding Peggle 2 or whatever game they want to the disc or to the box probably isn't going to make a big impact on your decision.
Peggle. I don't know why.
It's a good game.
A great game choice. Peggle.
The amount of money that they're saving on not manufacturing CDs, and also as well, they can ship out those boxes so much more quicker when they don't have to print the CDs.
Print the fucking CDs. I don't care.
No.
You know what I say? Fuck that. Install the game on the hard drive. I want to buy it.
Save me.
Get rid of the DLC. Time. Yeah, just everyone comes packaged. You buy the basic version. I will say I was pretty impressed. I bought the Xbox One S for my brother this last Christmas, and he got like, dude, it was insane. It was like $259, and he got 7 games or something because of all the. Yeah, it was legitimately cool to see him go, dude, I don't need to buy anything for a while. Like, I like that. I want the physical stuff, like Matty,
for some reason. Than a controller.
Yeah.
True. Dude, because what happened was I got Final Fantasy 12. I made a video about how much game changed. I got it, and I'm like, oh, this package feels like kind of. Oh, guys, it's gonna sound wrong again, Karak. Get ready to laugh. I'm like, oh, this package is kind of thick.
Hold on, everyone, close your eyes. Matty,
my package is thick.
Yeah, I was like, this package is thick, and so I pop it open, thinking like, oh, there's gotta be an instruction manual in here. We got some fucking warning about the game itself, and a nice pamphlet about the newest DLC for Stormblood. But don't worry, instead of giving me an instruction manual, they give me a reversible fucking cover. You know, just in case I really wanted to do that and pimp the thing up.
You really want instruction manuals? That does not faze me. No one reads them. No one.
I'm frustrated they replace them with basically
people jump in the game.
No.
Who reads instruction manuals?
I'd rather them get rid of fucking tutorials and just read a fucking booklet for 5 minutes before I play the game, and just have me jump into the game and know the controls and just start the story. Not, hey, wait 1 second as a little pop-up comes up. Press A to jump. It's like, okay, great. Like, just get me into the game. Tutorials are so fucking obsolete to me.
Yeah, but these Ruby slippers are so tight. It's tap dancing to the fucking music of the artist that I paid to come to my house is just too difficult. Yeah, no, I actually agree with Matty. Strangely enough, I love manuals. I would use them. I printed out stuff while I'm playing a Xbox or the One right now. And I needed to know where to go in a Batman game or whatever, and printed it out and had it with me, because there isn't a digital resource for some things, and certainly not the manuals. I remember hitting the help button in the Xbox One thinking it was going to load up a manual, and it's like, here's Internet Explorer, ask away. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So tutorials, I agree. They're sort of, that would be a whole other video, because I think I really find them horrendous, and I would like to see them go away as well, but they won't, because that is where the manual is. So
yeah,
I agree with both sides. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's just
because so many
sign of
games
the
have
times.
a slow start, but half of it's because there's a fucking
Yes,
like
that's what
2-hour long tutorial. It's like, imagine if
No,
you
you're
knew how to
absolutely
play
right.
the game before. You could get thrown right into the story.
Do you wish to see the tutorial? Yes, no.
No, yeah, options. Just need options. That's it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Our next bit of news, we're going to be talking about some Battlefront 2. On the podcast, we've vocalized our thoughts that we're hoping Battlefront 2, builds off the framework of Battlefront 1, and some comments from a developer on the Battlefront team seems to hint at that, as they say they, quote, didn't want to throw away stuff from the first game, end quote, in response to a question about whether or not there would be more content from the original trilogy or the prequel. So what that says is we're going to be seeing more of the original trilogy content, presumably from the first game, because they said they didn't want to throw stuff away. So that does say, provided I'm not reading into it too much, which I don't think I am, is that they are going to build off of what we had in the first game. So
can you explain what you mean by that, though? I was a little confused. What do you mean by the build? As in the stuff will just be in the new one? We're going to have,
for example, we're going to have Princess Leia, we're going to have Han Solo as heroes, Luke Skywalker, we're going to have, I'm assuming, this is not confirmed, but based on what he said, we're going to have those maps from the first Battlefront. We're going to have that bounty hunter system, or the Jabba the Hutt contract system, I'm sorry. Those type of stuff, the modes. And they're going to build off of that. At least that's what I'm getting, because they said they didn't want to throw stuff away. As in start from the beginning. At least that's how I interpreted it. If I am misinterpreting it, or if there's anything you guys want to toss out there, feel free to.
We've talked about it, I think, I could be wrong, but I think either last podcast or the podcast before, where I was bitching about... Yeah, I was bitching about games, the sequels not having the content, and you have to buy new DLC that's the content from the original game. You're like, what the fuck? And Civilization games are notorious for that. I think that was last week. Was that last week? Yeah, so I'm all for it. Like, I hope they do. I think it only makes sense. Why not offer a ton that you've already got and then move forward from there with even more? Like, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Especially,
you guys have any? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, especially because the number one problem with Battlefront 1 was too little content. So bring that game over, add more. What were you saying, Nate? Sorry.
How do you guys feel about the whole campaign for this game? Because that's one of the things that really excites me. I've always kind of been rooting for the Empire, so I'm very excited.
I have two thoughts on that. Number one, they're oddly quiet about it. I don't know if that's going to change at D23 because the lead protagonist, Janina Gavankar, I think her name is, she's going to be there. So maybe they'll talk a little bit about the campaign. The other thing is that from the way they set up the story, it sounds like it's going to... How did we word it, Karak, when we were talking about it? It was like going to be basically the same good guy story in the Empire's shoes that we've seen before. So that's where I kind of sit on it, where I'm optimistic. I'm happy they're doing it. I really hope it is good. Just like I said, they're a little tight-lipped when the game's coming out in a couple of months, and we know nothing about it other than you're a part of this Inferno Squadron, and it's going to fill in the gap between, what was it, 6 and 7, was it?
Yeah. And, I mean, you're right. So when you play Dungeons & Dragons, if you're a nerd like me, roleplay, you have different alignments. All the, Empire is, it can be argued, but it's pretty much lawful evil. And lawful evil characters can appear good. They can have a lot of the same overall traits and desires as, actual good characters. And that's what it feels like to me, is that they didn't really, there's not really a chance being taken, which I guess is okay, because maybe they want to get their feet under them and sort of see what they can do here. But I wasn't blown away by Battlefield 1's campaign with the jumping. So
yeah,
I like
jumping.
Yeah, I like the idea of the one character. She seems cool. She as a actual person, she seems interested in it, which is always a good sign to me. Yeah. It's not a Hellboy. It's not a Ron Perlman
she didn't
Fallout
seem like
moment.
The PR company was like, go say this. She's like, I got this.
She seemed genuinely interested, so that's great. I mean, I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I mean, like with Nate, I'm excited, but I'm pretty tentative on that excitement because we just don't know much. They haven't said, oh, it's a guess of this many hours or something like that. And guys, I gotta ask, is anybody else getting tired of this shit? I'm really getting tired of 4 hours. I mean, Titanfall, yes, I know Lone is gonna explode because I know he loves the Titanfall 2 single player.
Great campaign.
But dude, it's so fucking short.
It's
criminally short. It's criminal. And I don't want that in Star. I want a campaign, motherfucker. Like, call it a campaign. The word doesn't even make sense if it's 3 hours long. That's not a campaign. That's an event. That's like a fucking weekend. That's somebody's potato salad on a fucking beach. I want like 12 hours of insane I'm just going off now.
Go for
you
it.
guys know what you guys
going.
know. I'm excited if they really put a lot of effort into it.
Also, I feel like they need to get it right, because I was talking about this with a couple of friends last night. I was like, dude, I remember when I was a kid, it was like Star Wars games, and most of them were fucking good. Like, we had the original Battlefront, so Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. I'm gonna bring it up, KOTOR, obviously. You know, Bounty Hunter. There were so many diverse, different, and exciting Star Wars games. And ever since EA acquired the license, Battlefront 1, that's it. And now we got 2. Like,
well, Nate said he was interested in it or excited for it. But are you just excited that it's there, or do you think what exactly excites you?
I'm more excited of hopefully a good story that they might be able to tell. But as you made the point, it is like, the more I think about it, the more I get disappointed, because it is a dice campaign, and I've never been a particular fan of those.
But the writer, because Lone, I remember you made a video on this. The writer is the guy, or I don't know if he's co-writer. I think he's co-writer.
He was co-writer.
He was behind Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh, that's good.
Fantastic.
That is
excellent game. So there is like that glimmer of hope there that this can be not only a good story, this can get dark. Because we're talking about the Empire here, and we're talking about Spec Ops: The Line, which was a supremely dark game. So, I mean,
here's the thing. Great writer, supposedly, because I wasn't a huge fan of Spec Ops, but I know that a lot of people were, so I'll assume I was wrong. So that
I wouldn't
game,
say you're wrong. It's an opinion.
That game is really highly touted as having a great story. But what the question is, and I think it might have been where Nate was headed, can DICE allow that person the freedom to do that kind of thing? Because that's the worry on my part. Now, the movies have shown that they're okay with killing off entire groups of people, and they're okay with this and that, which is fine. But at the same time, there's a lot of safety in those too. And I'm a little nervous that we're going to jump in and it's going to be like, you're the antagonist, but really you're the protagonist, because you're going to have issues with what everybody else is doing. Like, fuck!
You're going to switch sides, and it's...
Like I said, I really feel what's going to happen is it is going to be the good guy's story in the evil person's shoes. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it took a Finn approach from episode 7 where he's like, the Empire is corrupt? What? No way. You know, I can't do this. Yeah.
Man, I hope not. If that happens, dude, I'm gonna be so mad.
I'm not dissing the Finn character. I'm saying, but building a whole fucking campaign off of that potentially. Oh man, please don't.
Was Lone on the video where I told him I talked to Jesse, who had worked on 1313 and the stuff he had told me about Star Wars. Were you on that podcast, Lone?
I think it was just me and you, because I remember you.
Was it just you and I? Dude, yeah, because Jesse, can't remember his last, Harlan, who's the composer for Mafia. He was also the composer for 1313 before it was canceled. And the story he told me about the story and the stuff he said, if they did that, it would be phenomenal. And they can't, because they've already chosen, the Empire. But that's what I sort of wished this was. Because it was about bounty hunters, no Jedi. It was about like fucking the grime, and like it was this undercurrent, the underbelly of crime that goes on, and all this gray area stuff that made KOTOR 2 sort of famous, if you really want to even go that route. And man, I was excited for that. And so this feels more lawful evil. We'll see. But I just hope he has the power. I hope they're like, okay, you're free to stretch your legs when it comes to writing, because guys, a great writer doesn't mean shit if they're fucking not allowed to. It's like a bad, offensive coordinator for the wrong team, and you're like, fuck, they're all good, but they're in the wrong place.
And plus, it's one writer out of how many, right? I mean, what quest is he going to have his hand on? Is he going to have his hand on the entire thing? Is that going to be a group collaborative effort? You just don't know.
Quests in a DICE campaign.
Okay, you know what I'm trying to say here, right?
No, he just hit on something. Let's fucking explode this shit. Lone, what if you got into the game and it wasn't necessarily open world, but it was a little bit like Infinite Warfare, where your quests were based in a way in which you could sort of choose them. There was a little bit more freedom. Maybe there was a home base, those kind of things. Would you want that, or would you want more of a linear, and nothing against linear, would you want more of a linear, like, track?
No, I think with Star Wars, I'd prefer linear.
Okay, gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's easier to direct the focus of the story and stuff that way.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer that. And this is me saying that as I'm playing Shadow of Mordor and really enjoying that.
Oh, God.
You know? Which
Yeah,
is not really
I'd have to
linear.
go with them just because of my taste for, I think, games in general, but Star Wars games in particular. I like the more kind of open-ended approach to how you want to.
You'd want more of a maybe approach it a little flexibility.
Yeah, because I mean, like, technically, like, KOTOR is linear, but you have choices you can make.
Yeah,
which like
planet?
Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. Yeah, it's linear. You really, no matter what you're doing, all those missions on that list, but it's about how you approach them. What's your loadout before you leave? The ending you get. So, like, same thing with Star Wars Bounty Hunter. Like, what weapons are you going to pick up? How are you going to approach the situation? That type of thing. So I prefer the more open-ended side of the spectrum. But I agree. I think DICE is kind of known for the linearity of their campaigns. One thing Battlefield 1 did right in their campaign was you had those big open areas in the missions, and it's just that it was so short. You were done in
Nate,
6 hours.
what would you like, Nate?
I just want them to tell a good story. Like, I want them to
Doesn't matter.
convince me why the Empire's the good guy. Explain to me how many jobs the Death Star created. I don't know. Just make me, like, actually want to be on their side.
Yeah.
They are the good guys. Like, what if they kill a few people, but that's because it's a war.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine
I can
the
agree with
state
that.
of the economy at that point with all this militarization. Somebody's building those starships. Probably
It's
have a
just
good
really
form of
good.
unemployment going on.
That would be awesome if the entire story is nothing but like a dude who, builds like the different Death Stars or whatever, and that's just your job. Just walk
Some
around.
bureaucrat in the Death Star just sitting there.
And they're shitting on you all the time. Like they're making you work overtime. They're making you crunch, and that's all you do. Just A. It's like Shenmue, the futuristic version.
Oh, I love
where you just-
Shenmue, though. It's all QTEs, but oh, man, I love that
raising
game.
a cat and making a Death Star, and that's the game. They're just like, no shooting. No, maybe your gun
Man,
when you
now
like
now
hot
you
wheel
have
shit.
those Shenmue sound effects going through my head whenever a fucking QTE popped up, that like
QTE.
bring, like that, and you'd have to like press the button, and that's such a good game. Fond memories. So, and in terms of building upon the first game, good news, yes, we're gonna have that campaign, that multiplayer. Sounds like a full package at the very least.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Does it sadden anyone to hear that it's more of the original trilogy than the prequels? The biggest thing was like people were like, bring back the prequels, the new era content. And if there's too little of that, do you think it's almost going to be like for them just, all right, shut up, here's a little bit of the heroes, go have fun, but like most of the game's going to be that original trilogy? Do you think that's a bad thing, good thing? It really depends on your taste of Star Wars, I guess, but still want to get your thoughts on it.
It doesn't really matter for me, to be honest. Again, like Nate said, just tell a good story.
I'm not talking about the fucking story. I'm talking about multiplayer here. We're talking...
No. But obviously, though, when you're talking about multiplayer, it seeps in from the single player. Right?
True.
No.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have a different world in the multiplayer.
No, just like... you could think Overwatch. You're like, you got Soldier 76 and Tracer shooting each other, but they're teammates in the actual universe.
But what I'm saying is that whatever theme, whatever story, whatever characters you choose in the single player, that's going to be the basis for the multiplayer.
Yeah, right.
Right. So I don't care what certain characters or what world or what time.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't sure, and I don't think anyone told me what it was, but this story is supposed to take place between episodes 6 and 7.
Yeah, it's 6 and 7.
So then that means, Lone, the prequel content's not there. So where do you stand?
Doesn't faze me.
Suddenly your argument has fallen into pieces beneath.
I just
That was awesome.
don't care.
What's Nate think?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get
Lone
your thoughts,
doesn't care.
Nate. Let's
Lone's
get your
just like
hot take.
Lone's like, fuck it. I don't care. I don't care about anything.
Yeah.
He's
I
just
think we
a nihilist.
romanticize the original games a little bit like too much from a gameplay perspective, because Galactic Conquest, that was one of my favorite modes at the time. I loved the hell out of it, but I feel like if you put that in a modern environment, you're basically playing team deathmatch with bots for control of planets.
It's TDM, but you move from planet to planet. It's
not. I don't think it would do well in a modern environment. So I understand DICE trying to be a little bit different. Like everyone's,
I
where's
agree.
Galactic Conquest? Well, you would fucking hate it if we put it in there. So it makes a lot of sense. Again, I'm really excited about the story. I want to know why the Empire are the good guys. I've always felt that way my entire life. So hopefully they're able to finally right some wrongs.
Cool. All right, then. Moving on to our final story, Lone suggestion. This is coming from his words here, so correct me if I'm wrong. Destiny 2 developers hope people complain about the story because of how much they're doing with the story.
Isn't that a great line for them to say? But for how much people complain, and me included, about how little of the story there was in the actual game. The fact that they're saying that shows that they're like, he's being facetious, but it shows how much they're focusing on the story for this game. I thought it was just funny and really good. I think they're being
fucking
serious.
Full of shit all the time now. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer.
The specific line was, "I hope people complain about how much story we have."
I mean,
I think
we meant for that to happen.
I had my fingers crossed, but I lost so much faith in them when they were like, yeah, we had no idea what the darkness was in Destiny. I'm like, how do you sit down as a developer writing a story and go, put that in there? What is that? I don't fucking know. Put it in there. Put the darkness in.
It's a fucking polar bear in Lost.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's here. So to me, I mean, I get where Lone's coming from, for sure. I don't agree at all, though. I think that personally, well, I don't know. So I'm at a loss for words because I want to get negative, but I at the same time don't want to be too negative.
It wasn't meant to be taken seriously when saying that
tough
line.
Love. I fucking love Halo and what Bungie did with them. I want Destiny to be the game that I can love as much as a Halo, if not more. So, like, it's not hate. It's not negative. You're just giving your opinion. So fire away. Have I inspired you?
It feels oddly antagonistic. And let's talk about what's really going on and not make one-liner jokes. Let's actually show some shit. And I guess actions speak louder than words for me right now. And one-liners is something that I've expected from the Destiny folks since when it first released, when they had a one-liner for every complaint anybody ever did. I mean, we had an AstroTurfer from Bungie on our community forums, and we had to end up basically telling them they were no longer able to come back. They only admitted way afterwards that they were, but we started picking up that something weird was going on. And it's like the sheer lack of like respect towards that and the sheer not knowing what the darkness is. I'm okay with that. Like, not okay with it, but whatever. To me, that's less important than what we see now in this story and stuff. And I would just rather have them show and not tell, if that makes sense. I just let's play it, because guys, what they've shown has not impressed me at all.
I get
and
that.
I like Destiny 1,
I understand.
So
look, it's the same with it doesn't matter what it is. It can be other sports. It can be games. Whenever there are interviews done before something is released, like before a big fight, before a big game, people are like, well, you got to stop talking. It's action, no words. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, it's all words, no action. But they're being interviewed. What do you want them to say? Do you want them to say... You're absolutely
right.
Like,
I want them to be less...
cut them some slack.
No, I want to give it... Of course. But what I'm saying is I think... How about this? I think a lot of the reason why a lot of people don't cut them slack is because they have not, too many people, deserved it. They don't deserve the slack. There is a deserving, questionable thought process by most consumers towards Destiny. Talking to somebody who liked Destiny and gave it a buy. Yeah. I really did like Destiny. But for example, the story being outside and then hearing not rumors, he basically came out, but the Redditor who was like, I'm the one who made the web page with all of the data, and they didn't even know until like 2 months prior to that it wasn't going to be in the game. I mean, just crazy shit where it sounds like nothing was planned right. And when I continually see them show this footage and they're trying to tell me it's this, it's that, it's PV, it's look how fast it is, look at this. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but it does look like Destiny 1.5 to a lot of folks, and I'll play it. You guys know me. I'll buy. If it's good, I'll say it's good. But I'm nervous about that, and my nerves don't go away because somebody is an asshole. And if I asked him a question, I would expect, unless it's a joke and we're joking back and forth, which I didn't get that from what I read. I actually got that was a facetious.
But it's hard to understand context when you're reading
always
text.
Is. Always is. Always. So I just, Yeah, I mean, just it's got. I get where people are negative about it, and I loved 1, or not loved, but I really liked number 1. I think I'm the only one here who liked number 1 a lot.
I liked it at launch.
Yeah,
but I knew there were, because I remember I oddly enough a couple of weeks ago I watched my initial video on Destiny 1. I was like, this game is good. I like it, but like I remember listing like all my complaints. I'm like, I hope they address them. And it's just they took so fucking long, and by then they were asking me to pay for them. And so I know now, based off the podcast we had where my friend Never came on, who's really big into Destiny 1, he put like, what was it, 84 days into that game, and he's even saying like, dude, yeah, he's like saying, dude, Destiny 2 is like straight up, it looks like 1.5 more and more. He's like, it's so sketchy, it's fishy. He's like, something's up with this game again.
And the removal of DLC, all of that weirdness of like, you can't play this if you don't get this, so a lot of that's odd. I think I get what Lone's saying, though, because I've said it myself, where I'm like, come on, if you're interviewing somebody, you can't get mad that they answered. And I do get that. I just, for some reason, maybe I just don't like that comment. Something about it, it reminds me of Luke. Was it Luke, actually?
Luke
Smith? Yes. Because
he said something before. I remember now.
No, it was.
That's who it reminds me of.
It was Matthew Ward.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually, I like him. So,
was it? Wait, no. There was one time though. He said something. This Luke guy. He said something.
Luke said a ton of. Dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say he said something controversial one
time.
He
needs to just
something about. It was something about the Taken King.
Oh, okay.
That fans should just buy. Oh, fuck! What the? I don't remember what it was.
It was a crazy one-liner, but
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, we're doing is just riffing on something a guy said, and I always say I hate that when people do it for me. So Lone's right. I think I'm probably wrong on that. Just sort of sit back.
All
and
right, so we'll take instead of what we'll call bashing Destiny. Let's talk about the pros of this. They're overloading on story. How happy does this make us? Like, it's a thumbs up from me.
That's the next problem. That's the next problem, and where I wanted to go with this. They haven't shown that they can handle story anyway. So saying that, hey, look, our shit
trilogy that they did.
No, I don't think. I mean, Halo 1 was great with story, but then I think things started to fall apart, and most people would admit that.
I personally thought they did a good job with the trilogy, but I can see what you mean.
I liked 3 and 1, their stories, but I'm just a little nervous that, you're putting somebody in charge. It's not like the writer from The Line is there, like what Lone was saying with the other game.
Kind of what I was talking about with Hideo Kojima earlier, where they were like, all right, now we're going to go do Reach all the way in the beginning,
Yeah.
This happens. It's like, all right.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
I liked Reach a lot. I liked basically every Halo game except 5. I can't stand 5.
Fuck you.
I did not care for Halo 4.
I wasn't a big fan of 5.
No, it wasn't even that 5 multiplayer.
5 was
bad.
The problem with the marketing.
Just the campaign was not good.
What wasn't the problem with 5 is that they kind of advertised this story of Master Chief versus this new thing.
And when it finally... It's a typical last hour. It was like, all right, things are picking up here. Like, maybe this story can recover, and it ends. And you're like, okay, I got to wait till 6 for the actual good
Let's
story.
Be honest. Maddie, I think another reason why it might bother you is because it is a lot like what we're worried Battlefield or Star Wars Battlefront 2 is going to be like, which is where they have a chance to do a story and they don't.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought Halo 5 was like that. I thought the story was we have a chance to do something, but we really didn't go anywhere. And we introduced bad guys no one knows about unless you read the novels, but that's beside the point. So I think that's why we're picking up on some of the weirdness, because it does, a lot of these do mimic other games when we talk about them, like the positions and problems that these other games have.
I mean, I'm deciding whether or not I'll be picking this one up still, because if I'm going to play it, I'm going to have to play all the DLC for Destiny 1, and it's like, do I want to commit to that when it's a game?
I don't think you do. Like,
I don't think so either.
I think
See, but I'm like that gamer. It's like, I feel like my opinion is not valid until I have seen it all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been there, I know about it, I am well informed, and now I can talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
I know exactly what you're saying.
Especially in the position we're in, where I sit on a podcast with you guys every week, and it's like we're fucking flinging opinions left and right. It's like, if I'm uneducated here, then.
But I do feel like when it comes to Destiny, because it's that kind of game, one that's it didn't meet up to the expectations. It's fairly long. I think it's one of those games that if you said I didn't play Destiny 1 because I didn't like what it did, but then decided to give Destiny 2 a chance. I think that's a legitimate reason, and I don't think anyone can question the fact that you didn't play Destiny. I mean, I get people that are saying that Destiny 1 is a much better game than it is now, but you can't come back to me and say you should play it because it just didn't catch me first time around. I mean, why should I play it to be able to hold a valid opinion?
Yeah,
why is that?
You don't hold
JRPGs to play.
That wouldn't be a more valid opinion, because if Lone said I didn't play 1 at all, but I'm playing 2 and I'm reviewing it, then I would just go at that review from the status of Lone.
Exactly.
Just jumping in. So to me, that's completely valid as long as, and we've talked about this before, as long as you're upfront about where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't come in and I'm like, I've played it all, guys. And I've only just played like the first one.
I'm a fucking master at Destiny 1.
And then you're like using the right buttons and shit, and people are like, dude, seriously? Because I've seen that happen, actually. Yeah. What about you, Nate? Are you jumping in?
I didn't particularly care for Destiny 1. Like, I guess I've heard a lot of things about it. It didn't catch me, like Lone said. It wasn't a particularly amazing game from my perspective. I didn't understand the story at all. I didn't care about it. At the first point in time of the game, what was it? Like, the first thing I remember doing is we were running through, I guess it was almost like a dungeon or a cave, something of that sort. And I recall finishing it. I thought, okay, so what's our reward? Basically nothing. I think we probably got some sort of item from it, but I don't remember what it was. All I remember was the monotony of thinking, why am I punishing myself?
Yeah. No, I share your exact thoughts with the first Destiny, but I know I'm always someone that is willing to give someone a second chance. And if this Destiny is bad and if they don't do a good job with the story, I'll be the first here to say that. But in my opinion, they're saying all the right things, even if they're being a bit facetious about it.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, so what are the right things what do you feel like you're hearing? Because I haven't followed it much, aside from what we just talked about.
Main thing is the story, all right? I mean, it's having the story in the game. That's the main thing for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Second, what I've been reading about there being, like, from the get-go, there's going to be more content, like Destiny 1 in its later years, or its later life. It's not just going to be... All right, here's a very quick main story and random fetch quests and stuff, like very boring, monotonous, mundane
Peter
stuff.
Dinklage doing the voice.
Yeah, exactly. No Peter Dinklage. Don't have to record his lines again.
It's a space wizard or whatever the fuck he says.
But what I'm reading, and this is the thing, right? I mean, it's going back to what do you want them to say in interviews? They're saying all the right things. Of course, it's going to come down to whether they actually execute it correctly, but the fact is that they're there saying the right things, and you don't want them saying the wrong things. I mean, if they were to come out and say, like, you know what, no, we actually did think we did story right in the first Destiny, I mean, that would be 10 times worse.
I think I just wanted examples instead of a facetious answer, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, oh, well, here's something we have a tangible example of something we've done. For example, Spec Ops Align, that writer, they can say, hey, look, we got the writer for this, right?
Which they did,
So
I
Destiny.
Come out.
Oh, they did? And say who their writers are? Okay.
Yeah, because I think it was at one stage, it was him, and I think it was an ex-writer from IGN or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it is the IGN guy. Yeah, you're right.
I'm oddly nervous, and I don't know if that's justified. It's such a strange transition.
Does he have any experience with like games or storytelling?
He was good at his time in IGN, I thought. He was one of the reviewers I liked, I watched.
Has he written a game before or like designed a story? That'll fit right in.
He probably did some side projects, and he probably it wouldn't surprise me if in his studies like he did a bunch of that. So like we don't I don't know, but he's going to be hopefully under the direction of a well-established writer. And you know what? Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need some fresh damn eyes. Because
I have a question for Lone.
Yeah.
Has Chris? How do you pronounce Chris's last name? The writer.
Avalone.
Avalone.
Yeah.
Has he written anything bad?
Oh, I'm sure he has.
I'm asking. Do we have an example of a game where the story where you go, Chris Avalone did not do a good job on this story?
This is the weird thing. When I interviewed Chris Avalone, right, he talks a lot about. He came into this game later on and wrote some side quests and wrote some characters, right? There's not that many examples, at least that I can think of, and I'm sure there are out there, but there's not many examples that I can think of where he's involved from the get-go, and the main one directing the story. Because, for instance, with Prey, he didn't.
Right.
Like the foundation was already there. He wrote Dr. Igwe. He wrote Chrissy.
He adds to it.
He adds to it, but like I'm sure there are examples.
Influence is felt though, for sure, because it's
special
no
teams.
coincidence that he just the games he writes for, they end up, if anything, having good writing. Like I wasn't.
That's why I was asking.
And that's the thing. I remember saying in a video after my review I was just saying to like a developer, I think I said to Bethesda, I was like, hire this guy, because I was like, your biggest misstep and problem is writing.
Yep.
You have this man here who can fucking write like a beast.
Brilliant.
So, it's not even like a hype train fanboy kind of thing. It's just he's a humble guy. So even when I complimented him for that Prey video, he was like, Matty, I love the video. He's like, but thank this guy too. He's the one who guided me and stuff. I'm like, yeah, like, of course, but what we're saying is that like when you're involved in a game, it's no coincidence that the one definitive good part is that writing.
So I asked because I was just I was trying to see like how often somebody we know is involved in something, and it means when they're in there and they're involved, it will be good for the 99% of the time. And I was trying to track down if Destiny 2 has anybody.
Look, even if it's just having someone in the team that fucking has experience, that people can talk to, that uplifts everyone's motivation. Yeah, I think someone like Chris Avellone could bring that along.
That's the thing. It's like with these types of developers, you know what type of game you're getting. Like when you get a Neil Druckmann game, you know what you're getting. A Todd Howard game, you know what you're getting. Chris Avellone, I guess you can't say you know what you're getting. Yeah, Peter Molyneux, you know what you're getting. So, I guess it's kind of like that too, where I haven't studied the staff whatsoever for Destiny.
That's what I was asking. Yeah, I was trying to figure out like
casual. Haven't studied the staff.
I haven't studied the staff.
We should in the future look at the Destiny 2 writing staff and see some of their history. Because that'd be interesting.
It's kind of like, even though we'll say like, oh, he was just a supporting writer, he came in late. I think it's like a voice actor and his presence in a cast where you can see the effect.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Like. Anytime, and I'm a huge fan of him. I've said it before. I'll say it again. My favorite voice actor is Yuri Lowenthal. And when I hear him in a game, I instantly think highly of the game, or higher of the game, because I know he's usually not voice acting in a game that's fucking bad. I can think of very few games that I've played with his voice in it that I was like, I didn't like that much. I mean, I'm sure they've been there because he's in so many games. But like when he's a main prominent role, it's usually a game I've enjoyed. So
and like here's the thing, right? I mean, I know I say that, Chris was only involved with side characters and stuff. Like, his role wasn't that important. Like, the thing is, though, when you're talking about, like, we know in movies how important a supporting cast is, but especially in a video game where the protagonist is usually, it doesn't talk and is bland, or if he does talk, is very monotonous, right? That usually that's how protagonists come across in most, like, I'm not saying in all cases, but when you're playing a video game, you're always being confronted with side characters. You're always talking to those side NPCs. They're the ones that really give color to the game. So when Chris Avellone comes in and writes a Dr. Igwe in Prey, or Chrissy, or whatever characters they are, and those are the ones that you remember, that's fantastic writing, and that is important. So even if a really good writer is just brought in late, that can just write some really good side narrative that you appreciate, I mean, that's 10 times better. And sometimes you need that. It doesn't always need to be like the main big story that's going on. And I think one of the problems with Destiny, we actually did get a big main story. We didn't have a lot of the side stuff that everyone was interested in. We didn't have a lot of the nuance that people wanted to know about the damn world, because we got like the most bare bones stuff, and that was it. You know what I mean?
Well, there was
I completely agree.
in the grimoire outside the game. So
but and that's what I mean, like stuff in the grimoire, like you could argue that it was really important and that it was some of the main hard-hitting stuff, but most of it, from my knowledge goes, it was a lot of side stuff. It was a lot of, here's this character's background and stuff like that, but that is what gives the world color, and that's what should be in the game and told
it's
well.
Like flavor in D&D. It's just kind of
exactly. I mean, like, who likes a nice piece of steak, right? That's not seasoned correctly. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Has Chris found a home yet, or a studio to go to?
He's working on Pathfinder Kingmaker. He's still freelancing, but he's working on Pathfinder.
I would assume too that we won't be seeing him I could be wrong, but it doesn't feel like he'll be sitting down to a company.
When I interviewed him, he has like a bunch of projects, like 5 or 6 that he can't talk about. But when we hear about it, it's going to be big.
He's not strapped for work, so he's like,
no, he's fine. He's fine. He just can't talk about a lot of the stuff he's doing.
I just think he's that kind of guy right now, and it makes more sense for him to freelance anyway. You know, and creatively it might be better for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It would have been nice to see a guy with his talents,
so this,
like go to Bethesda or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's where they messed up. Like, that's the biggest part of it. Like, they had these great, I guess you can say, almost ideas that they never executed. You had a Chinese nuclear submarine. You had a famous radio host in a tower. Every single quest's content was go into a room, kill some things, leave, right? Mm-hmm. And they were so proud about the fact that, oh yeah, our Radiant quests feel as good as our main quests. No, that's not a good thing. That means you messed up somewhere. Yeah. Like, that means you made terrible main quests.
And here's an interesting thing. I'll share a story that Chris shared with me when I interviewed him. He told a story about when he was at Obsidian, and he was actually approached while he was at Obsidian to work on Prey. And he turned it down, then he left Obsidian, then he worked on Prey again, right? And he says now that he's so much more enjoying the creative freedom that he has in terms of the jobs that he can take on, etc. And it just goes to show that when you have a writer like that is freelancing, that there is no harm. In fact, it's beneficial. We saw it with him and Prey and Arcane. I think Bethesda should just be bringing on, writers like that aren't well involved in every single game like Emil, to say we need some fresh eyes, we need some new perspective, we need some writers that have a good history, and then let's have some better cycle. Right, let's not just have like Radiant quests that are, these are pretty good. We need better writers across the board. If you want to have Emil in there that still does the overarching stuff, that's fine. But you need a bunch of other people in there.
The biggest misconception is I don't think Emil Pagliaro, I don't think he's a great writer, but he's a good quest designer. Like I've said, he handled a lot of the quest designs in Oblivion, and they're some of the best in the entire Elder Scrolls franchise. He can make good quests. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think the lead writer position is just too big for him to handle, or he's still getting accustomed to it. I don't know. But
how long has he been there?
He's
since like Morrowind, maybe.
Like a part of the company in general. It's got to be. They said the smallest amount of time someone's worked there is a decade. I'd say he's.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's got to be there for well over. I'd say, got to be since before Morrowind or around.
I would prefer Emil to be in more of a director role. Because, like, a lead writer, you're writing a lot of stuff and you're involved, like, in kind of shaping the story. But I think you could still kind of have that kind of control and that shaping if you're in a little bit, you're one step higher in a director role, and you're essentially delegating your work to a bunch of great writers, for example, like Chris Avellone. I think that would be ideal.
It's not that Fallout 4's, I'm guessing we're talking about that now, Fallout 4's story was bad. It was that for the type of games that Fallout is,
didn't fit.
It didn't fit. It didn't provide.
It was a good game, but not a good Fallout game.
Yeah, and it didn't provide that level of choice through the writing, through the execution of the game itself that really reflected that at the end. You still saw that same explosion with every faction except for if you sided with the Institute.
I guess the overall point though that I'm trying to run home is that because we were talking about Destiny 2, right? Even if Destiny 2 had the same lead writers as they did before, so long as you brought in people like the guy that wrote Spec Ops: The Line, that can flesh out the world, write more of the side characters and quests, influence the main story itself, that is value. That's money right there.
No, I agree.
And you can still vastly have a much better story, regardless of whether the story was in or Destiny 1 or not. Just looking at a story, you can still improve upon it so long as you have a great supporting cast of writers. That's all you need.
The other thing, though, is tying in Prey. We look at how the writing was good, and this is my personal opinion, but it has this illusion of choice, and that choice and consequence in that game is completely gone. It's not even a thing there, even though it presents it as that idea, as far as I'm concerned. So you can tie in Chris Avellone, you can make that writing good, but it's also up to the developers to make sure that your choices are reflected throughout the game itself, which I didn't really feel Prey did, especially
I agree.
But
I agree.
Right at the end, you're just like, all of that was kind of pointless. You know, because
it couldn't decide if it wanted to tell you a story or let you make your own.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it really just depends on the game, but this does fall to the developers a little bit to connect with the writers and be like, okay, we're going to create this quest. We want this to happen. It's like you got to make it so that these options are available to the player. Because, you know, I'm sure that they've presented those options for him and like, oh, that's too much, you know, or not in the lazy way, but like, how the fuck are we going to fit all that? At least that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for all the news we have this week.
Hashtag, I hope they complain.
Hashtag.
Oh my gosh, we've been going for 2.5 hours. Wow.
I've been going for 9.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I take full credit for this.
4th podcast.
Anyway, thank you to everyone who stayed this long. Be sure, what was it, the hashtag I hope they complain.
I hope they complain. Isn't that what he says in the?
Yes, I hope they complain.
I hope they complain. Yeah. So
I hope they complain.
if you've listened this far in the podcast, hashtag I hope they complain. Nate, thank you so much for joining us. Anything you want to pimp one more time before we wrap this up?
I got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/theepicnate315. Sometimes I leave comments on your video, Matty, advocating in favor of supply drops.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm glad you noticed those.
I've always seen them.
You'll probably find me here and there somewhere.
And yeah, like I said, I'll have all his stuff linked in the description down below. Please check him out. Great YouTuber, great guy. And that'll do it for episode 116. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and we will catch you in next week's episode.
Peace out.
Later.
So luego.